Mystical Whispers Publishing.
It's Mystical Whispers Publishing on this again. Welcome, chosen ones. Dim the world and listen closely to Mystical Whispers Publishing, where the moon goddess weaves destiny, and every soul battles a beast within. You are about to enter a world forged by fire and fate, the hidden legacy of the Lycans, where warriors train in the shadows, and even the strongest hearts secretly yearn for a fated mate. If you dare to uncover the secrets of the Black Rain Pack and witness true power, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave a comment to Mystical Whispers Publishing in the comment section on what you think about this audiobook, Alpha Rush. Now, step into the legend, and don't let the beast take control.
Chapter 1. Ages ago, the moon goddess created man, then she made the beast and combined them. The moon goddess watched over her children and soon found that evil resided within many of their hearts. The beast was too much. The beast often overpowered man, and with that came the creation of rogues. That was what the goddess had named them, beast more than man. The goddess cried to her lover, Apollo, to fix her mistake, to kill her creations, but he did not. Instead, Apollo sent the will of fire into the hearts of the untamed, and so the hidden pack of Black Rain was created. Those from the hidden pack were men who could overpower their beasts, men created to protect those who could not defend themselves. Henry Power was the first to achieve this. Though Henry was more beast than man, he still held control over his beast. His features and larger frame seemed to intimidate others. It was on the night of his first shift that the moon goddess named this new species a Lycan. This beast was different from others. He had control, his strength was greater, and his height surpassed any beast he came in contact with. His form radiated power. From that moment forward, Henry Power became known as the father of Lycans, the man who later created the Power Pack. The Royal Pack, feared by every pack. Well, all except one. But that pack no longer existed. My alpha had told me this story many times as a child. The day he found me in the woods, bruises covering my form, my body thin, and my skin cracked and wounded. He told me that I was special, like Henry, that all the strong wolves found their way towards the hidden pack. He said it was Apollo who chose my destiny at birth. Of course, I was no Lycan royal, but warriors of the Black Rain Pack were a myth to the werewolf world. We were the stories parents told their children when they were afraid to sleep. We were all guided here to train, to become stronger, to protect our own against those who were not strong enough to fight their inner beast. Alex, pay attention, Ben yells to the left of me. I have $20 on you. I smirked at the red-haired boy. He had kind eyes, the kind you would never expect to see so much horror and violence. He had a boyish smile to match that innocent look he wore so well, and yet, he was the furthest from it. My attention goes back to the rogue. Sweat drips from the side of his forehead as his arm wavers, not wanting to lose our little game. It was simple. Pin my arm down, and he was free. But if I pinned him down, he'd rot in the cellar until we were bored and wanted to try new interrogation tactics on him. Though we all knew how this would end, no one ever beat me in an arm wrestling match. Soon, the splinters of wood sprayed at us as my men cheered and laughed, seeing the distraught face of the unknown wolf. Many were smart enough not to try and dig into the secret of the Black Rain Pack, but he was stupid. A fool, really. The fight at Gold Moon Pack was long and tedious, a brutal battle that left many dead. The Gold Moon Pack was a lower-ranking pack in the south, a pack known for its kindness. They were a pack that kept to themselves and never bothered others. Being a part of the Black Rain Pack meant that it was our duty to help other packs against rogues. They sent a letter to the council on the issue of rogues growing closer to their border, but by the time we arrived, rogues had already infiltrated their pack. Though most members were farmers and blacksmiths, they fought bravely before our arrival. Our duty to help our people was something Apollo had taught us. It was the whole reason for our existence. Unfortunately, as we left, a rogue decided to follow us back to our pack. We had known all along he had been tailing us, but now and then our pack relished in a new training target. I never questioned it. I was the only female within the pack, and even I knew my limits. He moved solemnly towards the cells where two of our men guided him. Now that playtime was over, I moved to my post and began checking in with everyone on patrol. Everything seemed to be running smoothly as every wolf on patrol sent me a nod and continued to keep watch. It had taken me a while to earn my peers' respect. Before I had come along, the Black Rain Pack only held males. Samuel, our alpha, declared that Apollo chose my destiny to end up here. The small crescent between my brows further proved it. It was a symbol. It showed that this was my rightful place. This was where I had to be because the goddess and her lover had said so. Though many questioned how true it was, a girl appearing in the woods, some still question it to this day. It was a lonely life before I had joined. Life at the Black Rain Pack was simple. We wake up, we train, we help others, we sleep. It all sounded so simple, for easy steps, and once our time is done, we rest with the gods above. Of course, none of us knew if that was true, but it's what Elder Eric had always told us. The elders of the council always told us of our worth, of our cause, the reason we live and fight for our kind. Against our kind. Some days, I wondered what my life would be like. Suppose I were the girl with the happy family, the girl who would find her mate at 16 and run off into the sunset. I wanted it some days. I tried to find my mate, to find someone to care for me, to have a big family that cares for each other. Even on my happiest days, my worst days seemed to cloud my mind. The pack hall now. My feet stop at the command and move accordingly towards my new destination. Blurs of brown and red furs rush past me as I near the pack hall. It was his tone that had everyone looking to each other as we entered the hall. As I stepped in, I could feel the air tense. Even the Gamma would not spare me a glance. I moved quickly to my designated spot, my hands moving into my pockets as I watched the Alpha move in front of us. He cleared his throat. I am afraid that our sources were correct. The room grew tense at his words. The council has informed me that the threat of the rogues has grown increasingly in the north. He pauses momentarily, taking in our expressions. As you all know, we have always been in a battle against rogues, but the council fears they are getting stronger. They have created a pack of their own. The leader is unknown and is considered to be a level 4 threat. My body stilled. At the beginning of training, we were taught how to handle every situation, whether it be rogues, witches, vampires, or whatever else the gods created. We were taught different methods, different levels of possible destruction. We had been to level 3 before, in the fight against the Warzone pack, but that was before my time. I shiver at the name. A level 4 meant that this threat would have to be neutralized immediately, though many of our own will likely die. Settle down. The murmurs filling the room turned into hushed whispers. The council and I have decided that our best decision is to head north. The Alpha continued, the voices of our pack filling the room again. Alpha Rush will be giving a shelter. I expect everyone to be ready by dawn. Chapter 2. Alpha Rush was notorious in our world. He is known as the Alpha of the North, a man renowned for his tactical, cunning, and deadly nature. He was also one of the 5 Kage. The story goes that Athena sent the Kage down. She created the 5 Kage of War, Rush, Alpha of War, Creed, Alpha of Beasts, Arian, Alpha of Battle, Amara, Commander of the Dead, and Violet, Queen of the Damned. It was a prophecy passed down through generations. A seer had named them all and claimed that one day all 5 Kage would need to unite to win our second war. Most called her crazed and confused, even claiming that seers didn't exist. They called her a witch and murdered her. Decades later, Alpha Rush was born. A man knowing the way of war, a man with a heart of stone, but an excellent fighter. When Alpha Rush rose to power at the young age of 17, the truth could no longer be denied. The 5 Kage were real, and only one has been found. Some speculate that his name and power were a mere coincidence. If he is a Kage, where are the others? Though some remain skeptical, the royal family was not. They believed the prophecy. They felt another war would come, and they thought that Alpha Rush would be the one to stop it. It has been many decades since a seer was born, some claiming that because of our harsh treatment towards Della, the goddess would not grant us another. We were ungrateful, and for that, we should be punished. Though if a seer were to be born now, it would be different. Guards would surround them, they'd have the protection of the royal family, and all wolves would fall to their feet. A seer was rare, and was now said to be a child of the moon goddess. My feet dragged my body towards the black SUV, not wanting to be awake at such an early hour, but the ride would be long, and Alpha Rush was awaiting our arrival. Loading our things into the cars was the easy part. The hard part was trying to keep still during our 10-hour ride to the Mountain Ash Pack. I sat in the front with Alpha Samuel in the driver's seat, and the boys behind us. My feet tapped against the rubber mat of the car, following the beat of the music playing from the radio. The song was low but loud enough to keep me entertained, though the chatter of my pack mates drowned out the 80s rock Alpha Samuel put on. Yeah, right. One look at you, and they're gonna be running for the hills, Ben laughed as Ethan continued. Come on, he practically jumped out of his seat. You think the ladies will be able to resist all of this? He gestured to his stomach. Six-pack, baby. My eyes rolled. A lot of fighters have six-packs, Ethan. He ignored me. Boom. He gestured towards his biceps. You think they got men with these? I rolled my eyes again, choosing to keep quiet this time. Even though Ethan had a colossal ego, he was a handsome man. He was built like one of those Greek gods, chiseled and almost too perfect, with hair like honey. They continued to talk about girls as the hours passed. Most of the men in my pack would go to bars and engage with any wolf crossing their path. Many female wolves would willingly approach a powerful male. It is something wired within us to know who carries power and want to connect with them. However, many choose to wait for their mates and not give in to temptation. Mates were a common occurrence. Most found theirs before the age of 20, some had to travel to see them, and some packs even held mating balls in hopes of helping their people find their mates. But it was not common for us. Our job was to protect our kind and be willing to die to protect another wolf. A mate would make that difficult. We were meant to be disposable. That's why we were created. We all accepted that fact at a young age. Chapter 3. It wasn't difficult to see where the pack's name originated from. Ash covered the mountain as our car drove higher and higher. It was eerily beautiful how the black covered the grass. The ash was constantly falling. For what reason? I haven't a clue. No one does, really. Mountain Ash claimed to be the highest-ranking pack in the country. I assume it is because Alpha Rush is a Kage. Wolves ran at our sides, moving swiftly through the trees, never taking their eyes off our cars. It was quiet as our vehicles came to a stop. Pack members stood around us, staring but never saying anything. They stood firm, faces unmoving, bodies still, eyes focusing on our forms. I felt as if I were being dissected. A prickling sensation ran through my body at the thought. A wave of anxiety slowly seeped in. I had expected more staring toward our men, though all I continued to see were squinted eyes and furrowed brows. It seems my first assumption was wrong. I could only guess how many of my assumptions are true. Only time could tell, I suppose. I blended into our crowd of men, not wanting to be seen yet. I had been in Black Rain for many years, yet everyone assumed I wasn't a warrior. Most thought I was a maid or a pack caretaker, as Alpha Featherstone once said. Though I suppose that was better than being known as a stress reliever. Alpha Aaron of the Exodus pack claimed that a woman is worth nothing more than what's between her legs. My Alpha wasn't too happy about that one. All of their assumptions stemmed from the fact that a woman was too weak to hold her own in a pack designed explicitly for warriors. It was only 50 years ago that women were allowed to fight. The Power Pack made that ruling after much protest. After that, it was up to the packs whether or not to make those changes. Some packs today still do not allow women to train, while others do, allowing women to train from a young age. It was all left to the pack's alpha to decide. Either way, men were annoying. A female wolf approached us, head down, nodding at us to follow her. I felt my skin crawl as I watched this petite girl shy away from us, her arms thin, and it took me back to another life. I shook the thought away and followed the girl into the building and up the stairs. She spoke softly as she explained where we would sleep, then where the rest would stay. Alpha Samuel, Joshua, and I followed the girl to the 4th floor. Joshua is our Gamma, and I am the Beta. We are both the toughest fighters in our pack, aside from Alpha Samuel and Francis, a wolf who left us before our travel to Mountain Ash. Joshua and I had both fought hard to choose Beta. My teeth had clamped down onto his arm, taking a chunk of his flesh. The warriors were all amazed by my animalistic fighting when in human form. That's what won me the title. Alpha Samuel's room sat across the hall from mine, while Joshua's room sat to my right. The Omega had told us that Alpha Rush's room was 2 doors down, on Alpha Samuel's side. My lip quirked up at hearing this information. I was interested in seeing how the 2 alphas would coexist. For most packs, we spend a day or 2 planning or fighting against the rogues. We leave them with instructions and how to keep safe and limit any reappearance, but our stay here was permanent. We would have to stay here until we learned about this war, the council mentioned. Our job was to gather intel, make the plan, and execute. I found my luggage waiting inside for me as I entered my new room. Unlike other rooms, this one had obsidian floors. The windows were large. The closet and adjoining bathroom were both on the smaller side. But the bed was large, the sheets matched the black of the floors, but somehow everything in this room felt comfortable. It was a sensation I hadn't felt in years. Dinner soon came, and Alpha Rush was nowhere to be seen. His father, the old Alpha, said he was in the middle of something. I scoffed at that, bringing unwanted attention to myself. Whispers spread around the table about a girl being a part of the Black Rain Pack. Many questioned how much truth there was in the stories circulating within the werewolf community. Surely, a weak female couldn't be a warrior? Misogynistic jerks, I muttered as I stabbed my roasted purple potato. I put my focus elsewhere before my knife could accidentally fly out of my grip and into someone's shoulder. I also wondered where this alpha was. I could see Samuel slowly losing his patience, but he began to eat his dinner with a scowl on his face, ignoring everyone. The room was slightly awkward as some of the Mountain Ash members tried talking to our pack, but as the drinks started flowing, so did the conversations. It wasn't long before some of my own had begun to mingle with the Mountain Ash. It didn't shock me how standoffish most of my pack were. We were all adjusting to our new life, a life no longer hidden in the shadows. A short girl with silky red hair tried talking to Butch, only to get a grunt in response. I had first thought the girl should thank her stars. Butch was the type to attack when someone bothered him. I assumed he was playing nice. Dinner had progressively gotten better. Alpha Samuel seemed more content with his now full belly and left for his quarters. More of the pack began mingling. However, the redhead didn't give up trying to talk to Butch. She kept making comments and asking questions, trying her best to be welcoming. When it looked like he was finally going to lash out, a few others and I and my pack got a twinkle in our eyes, but that was before their eyes met. The wide eyes and loud gasps made it evident that they were mates. Red blushed as Butch made the first move and introduced himself. I kept to myself, feeling overwhelmed by the many voices and many bodies in the room. I wanted to sleep away the stress, but then an idiot from Mountain Ash decided to speak. So, how did you get into the pack? The 2 males beside him smirked as he continued. I heard you have a special ability. Special ability? Noting my confusion, he leaned in closer towards me. I heard you have a way with that body of yours. My stomach churned as his eyes scanned me from head to toe. A few more of his pack members tuned into our conversation, some giggling, others just watching the scene unfold. Joshua moved from beside me, his body slightly covering mine as we all stood from our seats. Watch your mouth, idiot. You're speaking to the beta of the Black Rain Pack. Show some respect. Respect, huh? The one thing that I thought would change when I joined the pack. Being a part of a well-known pack, one would think you would at least get some form of respect without demanding it. And here I thought we were regarded for being the warrior pack, the ones that put our lives on the line to protect anyone and everyone. Yes, some respect would be really nice. But I guess I was just some lowlife. My eyes met Josh's. I could see the small flicker of yellow in his chocolate eyes. He was naturally a hothead, one who would challenge an alpha if he felt he wasn't being treated fairly. That's when I would step in, unafraid of the pain to come from the backtalk or disrespect. Watch your tongue before I cut it out. My hands were still as my promise echoed throughout the dining room. Eli, stop it. Alpha is here already, someone muttered from the small crowd that had started to form around us. It was now that I noticed the chairs that had been pushed away, the plates left unattended at the table, wolves giving space for whatever was about to occur. It was too late for Eli to retreat. Josh had warned him, but he still disrespected a beta. The punishment would be up to me. This was the way of my pack. Nothing lethal, but a minor injury here and there wouldn't hurt. Well, it wouldn't hurt me anyway. I grabbed the steak knife that lay beside my discarded food, as the look of recognition overcame Eli's features. Come on, you little weakling, I grabbed at his hand and palmed the knife into his hand. Maybe you'll have a chance with this. The emotions running through his face finally landed on one of determination as his eyes finished scanning the room. The poor guy wouldn't back down with his pack looking to him, looking to see if the rumors were true. Who is the girl in the black rain pack? The pack annoyance or the pack's beta? Either way, one of us would end up on the floor, and a show would be put on for those around us. I almost felt bad. I could have walked away and been the bigger person, but then again, this is who I am. Pushing things further than they need to be, probably why Josh and I got along so well. We are both hotheads. His eyes locked onto mine. A slight subconscious nod sent my way as if he was readying himself to attack. His right arm raised, coming down with the knife I held moments ago. I ducked out of the way, turning quickly and grabbing his wrist. With a slight twist, the knife fell from his palm and onto the floor, the slight clatter signaling his soon-to-be demise. Stop playing, Alex, Josh smirked at me. You're never any fun, I mumbled. I could see his crooked smile out of the corner of my eye. Yes, we really were family. I struck a jab to his throat, momentarily causing him to lose his breath. Taking the opportunity, I went in for the punch to the face, twisting to the left, landing a kick to his shin, then a final kick to the abdomen. I hadn't expected him to fall onto the table. The corner of the redwood table chipped off as he fell. My wolf grumbled, "Why do you paint these pictures for me?" Despite my wolf's commentary, I was all smiles as the weak-faced man lay on the tiled floor. He held his stomach as very little blood trickled from his nose. I had to admit, I did enjoy the view of my mild assault. However, my content was short-lived as I failed to notice the powerful presence in the dining room. What is going on in here? Chapter 4. I remember only one time that my pack went silent out of fear at the tone of our alpha. I was only 13 then, a young girl looking for the connection she never got. I was stupid and reckless, not understanding why we kept our identities hidden. I remember going out into the city, where I had met a boy. He was a wolf, a rogue, but not a crazed one. I knew these types of rogues existed, the ones who didn't have a pack, the ones who lived on their own. Those weren't the rogues we hunted the ones who wanted to hurt their own kind, the crazed ones who couldn't work with the beast within them. I remember it being my first time traveling into the city alone. By then, I had already started to gain my peers' respect, not entirely, but enough that they would see me as one of them. I was used to pain. It's what made me stronger and more tolerant than the rest of my pack. I had spent the day with the boy, enjoying the feeling of being wanted, the sense of having a friend. So, I invited him into our territory, telling him we were to be like spies. He was a year younger than I, and this game intrigued his adolescent mind. We played and played until we were found, pretending to be on a secret mission to take out Mr. Evil, otherwise known as Jonathan. He was the beta at the time, a hefty man who was a stickler for rules. Follow the rules, and there won't be any consequences, he'd always tell me. Though I guess this time I should have listened. Samuel was beyond furious. His wolf rose and killed the boy right in front of me. It was a lesson he never wanted me to forget, a rule never to break. Our pack stays secret. I remember watching everyone's eyes take in the event, the small body of the child, his life ended. Everyone surrounded me as I fell to my knees and cradled his petite body, crying for the loss of my first friend. It had been my fault. I knew the risks, I knew our rules, and that day I chose that boy's destiny. This was the only time I had seen genuine fear in the eyes of my pack members. That's what my mind replays as the wolves around me still, the scent of fear wafting throughout the room. My beast wanted to follow the herd. She hid in the corner of my mind, tail tucked. However, I had never been much of a rule follower. Yes, I had been scared of the tragedy of Roland Hines, my first friend. But my ego would never let me show my fear again. I would let my beast do all the hiding. So that's what I did. The chuckle escaped my rosy lips, echoing in the tense room. Apparently, I had a death wish. Then again, was that not my reason for living? Only to die. My pack members eyed each other, then refocused on me. I could practically hear their quips through the mind link. If only I had a pack link to the wolves of Mountain Ash, what could they possibly be thinking? I could feel their stares, like there was a red dot on my forehead that I was oblivious to. You think this is funny? You ruin my property and have the nerve to laugh in the face of your alpha. Great, I made him angry. Speak, you lowlife. Stop hiding behind your hair and show me the pathetic wolf who wishes to disrespect me. I wanted to laugh, though I suppose I had caused enough trouble for a day. I knew I would only bring difficulty for my alpha if I were to continue, mainly because I had a hunch at who stood behind me. Power like that could only be from the infamous alpha. I was a strong wolf, but to take on one of the Kaga, well, even I wasn't that stupid. I could hear the low growl, a sign that the alpha was ready to attack. Then, suddenly, my hair was being pulled as my body easily gave way. He dragged me away from the dining room and through the double doors. I could only see the wooden doors, my scalp aching from the extreme force. My wolf wanted to be let free, but I had gotten myself into this situation, and I would deal with my punishment. You smile and laugh as you assault one of my pack members and then destroy my property. He threw my body like a rag doll. My body was weightless for a moment, like a bird taking flight. I felt the air rush past me, and then I was falling. My body hit the wooden planks of the ground, and a bruise was surely to form. Anger pooled in my stomach as he grabbed at my scalp once again. My strength was nowhere to be found. I had let this man punish me, knowing I couldn't fight back. I knew I had to take the punishment, but the wild side of me screamed at me to attack and defend myself. My thoughts began to cloud. How could I stop this? How do I get this animal to listen to me? He had not asked what happened in the dining room. He did not look me in the eyes and ask for the truth before throwing me around like a child would its toys. And that's when it hit me. His large hand made contact with my face. The sting of the hit was lessened by the sparks that spread through my cheek. My head snapped up immediately. Stormy gray eyes met electric blue. My wolf yipped at the discovery, her tail wagging in excitement, running in circles as if she had won the lottery. I stilled as his left hand slowly released my hair. His face contorted into something I could not decipher. It seems that I would be breaking another rule, no mates. Yet, here he was. What a terrible situation. Chapter 5. My mother had told me at a very young age that I would never have a mate, that the moon goddess claimed I was unworthy of one. At first, I denied it. How could the moon goddess do something so terrible? My young mind refused to believe that the moon goddess would refuse me the happiness that every wolf experiences. However, as time passed and my mother constantly put me down at every opportunity she got, my adolescent mind began to believe her wicked lies. No one would ever want such an unattractive girl. Your own father didn't want you. What makes you think another man would? I had believed her as my skin became littered with scars. Mother would remind me every day that I was of no worth, not even capable of the simple task of having a pup. She claimed that my existence was a mere mistake. I was never supposed to be born. I had been speechless the first time my mother said she didn't love me, and now, as I stand before the very mate that I wasn't supposed to have, I am speechless once again. My emotions were going haywire. My mouth kept opening and closing, trying to find the right words. I could not reject my mate. It is frowned upon, but I could not be with him. It was ingrained into my head that members of the Black Rain pack don't mate. My mother had been right in telling me I was of no use when it came to the pup department. However, my whole existence is meant only to serve the moon goddess and to put my life on the line when needed. He was beautiful in a rugged way. Electric blue eyes, dark circles just under them, possibly from many late nights. His form was large and wide, every part of him toned and tan. He had stubble around his jaw, his brown hair disheveled and slightly curled. I could never comprehend when wolves would instantly fall for their mates at first sight. Yes, it was ingrained into us, but merely falling for someone at first sight is ridiculous. Well, that's what I would have thought before today. Everyone back to your rooms, he said suddenly, his eyes connecting to my own, before he walked away. I understood the predicament I was in. I had a mate, but that was against the rules. But then again, this is something I was told I would never have, and yet, the opportunity stands before me. My eyes stayed glued to his tense back as he walked away, his large steps leading him out of the room within seconds. Wait. He didn't acknowledge me. It's true. My wolf cried in my head. Her mate didn't seem to want her. He didn't acknowledge the bond. My wolf started whining about finding him, talking to him, doing whatever we could to get him to notice us. Why does she cry? Have we not been preparing for this our entire lives? No mate, no pup. Protect the pack. I knew I was never to have a mate, but to feel him so close to me, to have him not acknowledge me, it felt unnatural. Everyone seemed to take the alpha's warning and leave for their rooms, but I couldn't bring myself to be near his presence again. Remembering that his room was close to mine, I decided to go on a walk around the pack. I needed a moment to recover. It was a large amount of ground to cover. The grass was well kept, the plush, vibrant color confirming my thought. The pack itself was eerily gloomy, silent though wolves were walking about. Some were training, some were shopping at the small market located further down. I walked the pack a couple of times, making sure I remembered every single detail, memorizing every bush and tree, every face. As I kept passing by, members of Mountain Ash Pack kept staring at me. I understood the need to stare. I am a girl who has been living amongst the warrior pack. I am the beta of my pack, and I had just laughed at their alpha. Of course, they would stare. It would be stupid of me not to be aware of this. Though I could argue it was foolish of them to stare so openly at the beta of the warrior pack. With one final lap, I decided to make my way back to the pack house. I dreaded opening the front door. My feet dragged as I was met by both alphas and our gamma. All eyes went to me as I entered. Alex, Samuel greeted. Alpha, I replied, walking towards him. Tonight we will be introduced into the pack. I want you to tell the others. Make sure they are all on time. I nodded my head. Of course, I let out quickly, not wanting to be here any longer. In my frazzled state, I quickly climbed the stairs, passing Alpha Rush, accidentally brushing my arm across his. Slight tingles erupted from the spot, filling me with warmth. It was an electrifying feeling, one that reached down to my toes. I could feel my face heat up as my feet pounded up the stairs faster than I had intended. It was around 9 when an older lady named Lily came into my room to give me a white dress for the introduction. It was soft and light. After, I sent the mind link to our warriors to meet outside. I slipped on the silky material, then let my hair down in its natural straight form, and proceeded to look at myself in the mirror. My white hair complemented my pale skin. My gray eyes reminded me of the stormy skies that constantly surrounded these mountains. I knew I was not ugly, but the color of my hair will haunt me until the day I die. I liked how the white, silky dress looked on me. It had the perfect amount of cleavage, and it hugged my hips nicely. A dress is a luxury I've never experienced. I've never been one to go out looking for feminine items, as the men in my pack could think me weak for wanting such a luxury. A knock sounded at the door. It was time to join this pack officially. Joshua stood outside my door, ready to lead me outside with the rest of our pack. Don't look so nervous, Lex. My face formed into a frown. I'm not nervous. As the best warriors in our pack, Joshua and I would be the first in everything. We made our way to the front of the line and waited to be called. Mountain Ash Pack, Rush announced. Everyone went quiet. He continued, we are here to introduce the Black Rain Pack into ours. Alpha Samuel will introduce them, then I will do the ritual. He gave Samuel a nod to begin. It was beautiful. The night skies were covered in grays, blacks, and a slight purple. The thunder rumbled as Alpha Rush spoke. Something about the combination went perfectly together. Alexandra Night, beta of the Black Rain Pack and top warrior, Samuel announced with pride. My full name made me cringe slightly. Just hearing it brings back memories I wish I could forget. I have little scraps of memories of my mother, ones that have been scarred onto my body. I watched as Rush cut my palm, then his. I could feel a new bond being awoken. Do you swear to protect your pack and alpha at any cost? Rush asked seriously. I swear. Rush looked towards the crowd. I present you, Alexandra Night of the Mountain Ash Pack. Chapter 6. The celebration the pack held after our induction was quite a sight. Drunken wolves dancing and engaging with one another, the scent of alcohol leaking from pores, and all while I sat down and stared off into the distance. Every once in a while, a drunk wolf would come and try to ask me to dance. Of course, I turned them down. I had a mate. No, I may not be able to be with him, as that is our code, but I would also not disrespect the moon goddess in such a way. Mates are precious, a gift from the goddess. I respect the goddess too much to reject him. My mate, however, was nowhere in sight. After the induction of my pack, he disappeared. I can only imagine it was because of the bond. The bond that seemed to grow stronger as my blood mixed with his. In another life, the mixing of our blood would symbolize something more sacred. The mate bond. The bond was the most sacred thing our goddess had given us. It was a gift to her children so that we wouldn't be alone. The moon goddess is known to work in mysterious ways, sometimes even dangerously. Stories have been told for centuries of wolves who reject their mate or are unfaithful. Those wolves usually end up dead or living miserably. I do not fear the council, nor do I fear wolves of an alpha rank, but the moon goddess is the exception, along with the power pack and my mother. After a few more hours of blaring music and dancing wolves, I finally decided to walk back to the pack house. I took a moment to enjoy the crisp, cold air that nipped at my skin. I heard the crunch of the leaves I stepped on as I made my way through the trees. The nighttime has always been my favorite. The moon was out to play among the stars, lighting the path for any wandering souls. Samuel used to tell me stories about the stars to occupy my young mind years ago, mainly when my panic would set in during training. It's calming, the stars, the moonlight, the scent of earth. I remember all the times my mother used to hurt me. She was always under the influence and sad. After she'd let her anger out on me, I'd go outside and pray to the moon goddess to take me away. I guess she listened, because I found myself at the warrior pack, a place where I could create a new family. If it weren't for Alpha Samuel, I don't know where I'd be right now. Actually, I would probably be dead. A surge of energy hit me the morning after I woke. I knew what today was, and I was more than excited to show off and prove myself. I quickly did my morning routine and put on some clothes to train. Today, we would try out for our positions in the pack. We would all have to fight to earn our titles in this new pack. Since we are merging, Alpha Rush wanted to see how we fought and if we were qualified to be a fighter in this pack. All of the warriors felt a pang of disrespect, but decided to comply with his wishes. His fighters must have some skill since they are ranked #1 in the country. All I knew was this would be brutal. Our pack is known as the warrior pack, ruthless and vicious. We kill in an instant, no hesitation. It's who we are. And now the Alpha wants us to battle his fighters and keep the strongest. It was in my blood to be the best, to win every fight and make a wolf submit to me. After all, I was the beta for a reason. Chapter 7. The sky was beautiful today. It was a mixture of baby blue and navy. This was something I often noticed, how beautiful the sky looked whenever a harsh confrontation was about to occur. I felt the wind kiss my skin as I stood on the opposite side of those who belonged to Mountain Ash. Black Rain stood beside me, all ready and excited to win. Today, we would fight for our ranking, warrior against warrior, 2 packs becoming 1. It didn't surprise me when I saw no other women on the empty clearing, though I wished I did. It was not common for women to hold influential positions. This was the way of the wolf world. It was expected of females to bear pups and take care of the home, as the man would provide. It was an instinct. Women would only fight if their pup were in danger. This is how it has been since the beginning of time. Hundreds of years later, and I have only known a few women to make a power play. I had been born to become a warrior, The slight indent of a crescent in the center of my forehead signified that no one could tell me that I could not be where I am today. The moon goddess herself and Apollo selected me, and no one defied the gods. Well, except one person. Alpha Aryan Romanoff. She was the first female alpha ever to exist, the dominant force born to the Rikers pack, a brutal pack no one wished to cross. Not even us. She was a force to be reckoned with, having lived with the morals of the infamous Warzone pack and an infamous father, Andrei Romanoff. She created a name for herself quickly after confronting her father and her brother, the next soon-to-be Alpha. No one knows where the pack resides. Only one unfortunate soul was able to escape the pack, a young girl named Kayla. She was mated to a guard, but fled as soon as she could. She quickly told the townspeople about how horrific their land was. Figures were displayed at the gate, cruelty was encouraged inside the border, and pack members mistreated any unlucky rogues who got too close to the pack. She told of how they would hunt rogues for sport, the kind ones who didn't have a home to go to, tallying off every success. However, before she could lead the council to the hidden pack, she was found dead. Her body was displayed, the word rat carved into her stomach. The council feared the damage this pack could do. How could they get inside the walls of the village? No one knew. The only thing they knew was that the pack never attacked unless provoked. So the council issued a nationwide order. Stop scouting for the Rikers pack. Do not attempt to look for it. If the word Riker is even spoken, let it go. And so, the legend of the Red Devil was born. Mountain Ash Pack, my attention was called away from my thoughts. Alpha Rush began again. Today, you will all fight for your place, whether it be guard, a pack fighter, the beta, or the gamma. Do not disappoint me. There was an edge to his voice, a warning to the wolves whom he personally trained. The two alphas stood next to each other, their eyes watching every one of our movements. Rush looked annoyed, while Samuel seemed calm. Though we could all feel the tension between the two, alphas were not meant to share power unless it was with their other half. Joshua, step forward. It was Samuel who spoke this time. Stephen, Rush nodded him forward. The two would battle for the position of Gamma. The two wolves moved towards the center, where everyone could see. Stephen had an average build, a creepy smirk on his face as he and Joshua began circling each other. His eyebrows crinkled together, his eyes watching Joshua's form, catching every movement. He lunged, but Joshua dodged the attack by half an inch. They began to circle again. This time Joshua attacked first. He swung his left arm at his opponent's stomach. I saw as it made contact, but the wolf didn't even flinch. Joshua looked wide-eyed at the man, shock covering his pale face. It was all Stephen needed to get a good shot at Joshua's face. They continued to attack back and forth, landing a few good hits here and there. But in the end, Stephen had won. I could see Samuel's expression go dark as Joshua lay on the ground. I understood his anger. Joshua was trained and prepped to kill any wolf, and he lost. I would be lying if I said I wasn't the least bit upset. This was the first match, and one of my own had lost. I helped Joshua up and leaned him against the tree. That was disappointing. I smiled at him. It was, he replied with a smile. I stood and walked back next to my comrades. Across from me, I could see Rush's smirk. His smirk teased me as our eyes met briefly. He was enjoying this. Jerk. I will admit, though, perhaps I didn't take his fighters seriously before, but now I worry for the upcoming fights. Butch was next. Butch looks precisely how you would expect him to, tall and big like the Hulk. If I didn't know the man personally, I would have thought he had a strong physique. His eyes quickly scanned the perimeter, landing for a moment in the trees, then he stepped forward. Percy, a dark man, was called as Butch's opponent. His body was slender with little muscle. His body didn't show signs of him being a fighter, but he had scars covering his arms, and scars could only be made by silver. Maybe not the strongest physically, but he was tough. The two stood against one another. Percy looked straight into the eyes of Butch as Butch rammed into him. Butch wasn't known to scope out the enemy. He threw himself into battle headfirst, with fists out. The large man knocked Percy off his feet and straight to the ground. We all saw his body fly a bit when Butch had rammed into him. We heard the small thud as the dark man hit his head against the earth. Butch stood over his body, lifting his fist, then bringing it down. The shot never connected as Percy kicked Butch in the one place no man wished to be kicked. We all gasped in pain, knowing that it must have been painful. It was a questionable tactic to hit a man in that area, but sometimes fighting dirty is the only way to win. The hulking beast staggered back as a gasp reached our ears. I looked towards the sound, only to find the tree Butch had glanced at earlier. So she had come to watch her mate. Her eyes widened as her tiny form began to shake. I knew she was a fragile thing the first time I had seen her, but I was not one for dramatic displays. He had only been hit. It wasn't like he had been shot with a silver bullet. Her display called out to her mate, his eyes meeting hers for an instant. And then, the beast was ready to fight again. He snarled as his face contorted into the rage we all knew too well. The veins in his arms were protruding as his jaw clenched. Percy was on his feet in a split second. He had noticed exactly what we did. He moved quickly, aiming to land a blow to Butch's stomach, but the hulking beast grabbed his arm before it could land. The sickening crunch was loud as he twisted Percy's arm, then injured it severely. His cry of pain echoed in the clearing, his injury visible. The group of wolves across from me looked horrified at what had occurred, but all I could do was smile. My smile was all teeth as Rush made eye contact with me once again. This is why we are the hidden protectors of the Wers. Don't forget that, mate. I wished I could have mind-linked the jerk. Rush kept his face neutral. Antonio, take Percy to the infirmary. We all watched as the blonde wolf took Percy away. The next hour went on like this, wolf against wolf, black rain against mountain ash. My patience was wearing thin as I waited for my name to be called. Most wolves have fought already. I had to be next. Alexandria of Beta rank, step forward. Kyle of Beta rank, step forward. How long? Joshua mind-linked me. I turned my head slightly with a smirk. 15. I could hear the rest of my comrades rally in the mind-link, everyone betting on how long the match would take. I knew we must have looked strange, smirking at one another, as if we were plotting or cheating, but we were all waiting to see who would be correct in our little bet. I felt everyone's eyes follow me to the center of the clearing, where I raised my arms, getting into a fighting stance. Kyle's cocky grin stared back at me. Perhaps I could have been more cautious of this man. He was almost as large as Butch, though he did lack the overdeveloped look. His muscles seemed more natural. His arms went up, partially covering his face, and he got into a stance similar to mine. He bounced on his feet slightly. He had the stance of a boxer. Immediately, I knew what his mistake was. His arm shot out, almost catching my face. 1. He tried again, throwing his whole body into the punch. Definitely a boxer. He was quick on his feet, moving to the side slightly, then shooting his arm out again, scraping against my arm. I was on the defensive as he had taken the role of the offense. I watched as his fist came out again. I didn't move, too. I let the powerful blow knock into my shoulder. I heard the subtle gasp behind me. The wolves who knew me knew I was quick to end someone, never getting touched, but I was playing a different game here. 11. I let Kyle land a few hits on me, quickly tiring himself out. A smile etched onto my face as his fist came towards my face. This time, I moved out of the way. His mistake was simple, really. Boxers fight mainly with their arms, not legs. It was the perfect time to land my hit. The wound was created. The blood flowed out. The metallic scent washed over me as I reached a new level of focus. 15. Is this what she wanted? To see me become the person she was. My eyes opened as a content, soft smile lay on my face. Suddenly, I was no longer on top of Kyle. I was standing up next to Samuel and Joshua as 2 wolves carried the beaten wolf away. Is this why I could not have my mate? I flashed my teeth towards Samuel. Am I still beta? I asked gleefully, enjoying the scared looks pointed in my direction. Chapter 8. The whips of wind were all that was heard around us. Alpha Rush continued glaring at me, as I had just become the new beta of the Mountain Ash Pack. His glaring soon turned toward Samuel, who had the grin of a satisfied person. It must be hard to control themselves from fighting for dominance, but they both knew they needed each other to win this unknown upcoming battle. The glaring soon stopped as Alpha Rush commanded all wolves to retreat to the pack house. Tomorrow would be a new day. My excitement simmered down as I walked back to the pack house. Becoming Beta is a great honor. It is an honor that I have cherished for the past 3 years, and now I will love it until I die. I crept into my room and jumped into the shower quickly. I needed time away from everyone. I would never admit it, but being around so many always put me on edge. Being alone has always been good for me. I ripped the dirty clothes off and hopped into the shower, where my overthinking began. If there was one flaw I had, it was overthinking everything and anything. I analyze too much, I overthink, and then my thoughts begin to stray away. The loneliness started to creep into me. Thoughts soon turned to memories of her. She told me it was my fault we were rogues, that I was an unattractive child, an embarrassment to the family. My father kicked us out and kept my 3 brothers. She blamed me for everything. She certainly was a difficult person whom I never wanted to be like, yet every day I took a step closer to becoming the harsh individual she was. My hands reached to my scalp, almost begging to rip out the white hair she cursed me with. They shook in anticipation, waiting for my order to pull out the white strands and let the small drops of blood fall, but I did not. I brought my shaking hands down and remembered the only person who cared about me. When I finally calmed my thoughts, I got out of the shower and dressed in a V-neck and shorts. I slipped on my combat boots, then moved out of my room and downstairs. I made my way into the kitchen, only to find the familiar scent of my mate. He stood beside the counter, watching me walk into the kitchen. I ignored his stare, going through the fridge, picking out ingredients for a sandwich. I placed the ingredients on the counter and began to make my sandwich. "I don't trust you," he said. I gave him a bored look, then kept putting mayonnaise on my bread. "You are my mate, but I don't want you. You will only get in my way and put a target on yourself." I cut the tomatoes, then layered them on the slice of ham. I am a warrior. Having targets on my back comes with the job. I turned to look at him. "I don't trust you either, and I probably never will. I am a warrior and warriors do not weep over mates. I will not weep over you. You are nothing to me." The nonchalant response slipped from my lips. The words sent a pang of hurt to my heart as I forced them out. My wolf whimpered in my head at my honest response. I wouldn't cry and pine for him. He is nothing to me. I was raised to be tough and live without a mate. I've gone my entire life without the love I was supposed to get. Mothers are supposed to love their daughters. Fathers are supposed to love their daughters. Mates are supposed to love their mates. None of that happened for me. I would be fine without him. The next day came sooner than expected. I stood in the Alpha's office with Steven on my right. We waited for our instructions. They went back and forth talking about an issue with the rogues. Rogues were not all bad, but the majority are unpleasant and harsh. I was getting bored with the 2 alpha males criticizing each other's ideas, so I went to sit on the red chair beside the desk. Steven shot me a look before he, too, took a seat. Seeing 2 alphas banter is quite amusing. The veins protruding from Rush's arm, the low growls that Samuel emits, it's all quite entertaining. However, when Samuel shot his hand out and hit Alpha Rush in the face, the atmosphere was anything but amusing. Samuel is a strong, large wolf, but he was not born alpha. It was as if time slowed down. My body lurched forward as I saw Rush's hand come out to retaliate. As I stepped right in front of Samuel, a stinging sensation came over my abdomen. Blood flowed from my clawed stomach. My breath was caught in my throat as my knees buckled from under me. It was all in slow motion, yet so quick. The pained grunt left my lips as I clutched the bleeding claw marks on my stomach. For a split second, I saw it. The shimmer of worry passes through Alpha Rush's electric eyes. Interesting. Chapter 9. The claw marks soon healed as I spent the rest of the day in the clinic. Alpha Rush had commanded the doctor to keep me overnight. I'd be lying if I said the action didn't make my heart flutter. Being a warrior didn't cause me to be exempt from the effects of the mate bond. The bond would continue to grow and play its tricks on me, causing my heart and body to act in mysterious ways I cannot fully control. Today, both alphas ordered Steven and me to train the new fighters of Black Ash Pack. I knew Rush wanted to see my capabilities, as Samuel wanted to see Steven's. We stood at the front of the fighters in the pack. "Everyone pair up," Steven commanded. Once they were all paired, we told them to spar. We walked around looking at everyone's techniques and forms. That's when I noticed the problem. Everyone stop. They all turned towards me, as well as the alphas and Steven. "I don't know how they taught you to fight here," I said, glancing at a sure alpha. "But your techniques will get you killed. You all repeat the same sequence and the same techniques. It will not take an enemy long to figure out your next moves." Their fighting style confused me. How could this be the #1 pack in the country? Perhaps they relied more on strength than skill. Of course, I had relied on stealth and skill, never much on strength. Who was I to judge? "You two, come forward." The two fighters moved in front of me. "Fight." They began to fight, using the same techniques and sequences, taking a glance at me every once in a while. "Do you all see that?" I asked the group of fighters. When fighting an enemy, you need to use every point of your body, your teeth, elbows, and your head. Throw in a curveball to catch your enemy off guard. The wolves all nodded in agreement, knowing my words were valid. Again. For hours later, and the wolves learned a few new things. I taught some about pressure points and a couple of new moves. We were about to start running more laps when Mark announced the rogues' sighting via the pack link. "The rogues are at the crossing," he announced. We ran as quickly as we could, some slower due to our training. I arrived at the borderline, seeing some overly excited wolves, along with some tense fighters. Alpha Samuel sat on the grass patiently waiting for the upcoming show, while Rush had a look of confusion, seeing all the previous Black Rain members excited. It wasn't long before we heard the tearing of clothing and saw the hulking brown wolf appear in front of us. The half-bitten ear and scar along the back of the wolf's body were one of our favorite sights. Butch's wolf form ran straight into the trees, howling our warrior cry, a sound so guttural and filled with strength. A crack echoed through the air. Showtime. 6 rogues. That's how many we heard cry and scream in agony. We saw and listened as their bodies were affected. The brown wolf zigzagged through the trees, blood smeared on his snout, a powerful sight to see. The excited wolves all chuckled, seeing the rogues' defeated bodies. The others, however, remained silent. "That was amazing," Ben applauded as Peter patted Butch on the head. "Haven't seen that in a while," James added. Butch then shifted back to his human form in all his glory, giving a mock bow. "No photos, please," he joked. That man could be the quietest and angriest person I've ever met, but after a successful defense, he was always as happy as can be. We were enveloped in our conversation until we heard someone sob. We all turned to see the girl with red hair, Butch's mate, Ariana. "How could you do that to someone?" she cried out to her mate, while the tears streamed from her emerald eyes. Was she serious? "They are here to hurt us, Ariana. They are not allies. They are our enemies. Grow up." I spoke sharply, passing right beside her. She ran away, holding her crying face into her hands. I could see the look of concern on Butch's face. I gave him a nod to follow his mate. Soon, he too was running. The awkward silence that was left over the field caused everyone to leave. I decided against leaving and stood to face out of the border, watching as a couple of wolves went to drag the defeated bodies away. Someone needs to investigate how those rogues got so close to our border. Was this the oncoming threat Alpha Samuel was worried about? As I moved closer to the line, I could feel Alpha rush near me. The heat he radiated made my skin prickle with goosebumps. "Killing rogues isn't for sport, it's for protection," he said as his hands went through my hair. I nodded in agreement, unable to speak at the close contact. The bond was working its magic. "And yet, your pack reveled in their demise." It came out as a whisper, as if he were talking to himself. I let out a humorless laugh. "Did you expect us to mourn them?" My eyes landed on his. We stood there in silence for a moment, his hands leaving my hair with an inhale of breath, as if he had just realized what he was doing. "The bond is forcing him to act this way," her voice whispered through my head. "Anyone can become rogue," he stated with a turn. "You should do well to remember that." My eyes remained glued to his retreating form as something warm had fallen onto my skin. My hand reached to wipe away the tears. It had been a long time since I last cried. Not since, no. I turned my form back to the crossing where the rogues had just been. My job was to investigate, not worry over the ethics of my pack. Chapter 10. Wolves were running aimlessly. Earlier today, Alpha Rush had announced that the council was on its way to see our pack. This would be the first time the council ever came to anyone's pack, so it was a big deal. I, however, didn't care much for the group of old men, but Samuel said to play nice, so that is what I will do. I've spent the entire week organizing and reading through documents. It was quite interesting to learn about your pack members. A boy named Tyler was born a runt and has been working in the kitchen along with the Omegas. I've seen many wolves in my time, but I have never come across a runt. It did anger me a bit that he was placed in the kitchen as if he were common help, just because he was born smaller and less intense than a normal wolf. A few files were missing. Alpha Rush took most before I had a chance to look at them. He said he wanted to review the new wolves in the pack before allowing Steven and me to organize them in the cabinets. It made me happy when he couldn't find my file with the rest. I knew why my file was missing. It was never made. I didn't want any documentation of who I was or how I came to be in the warrior pack. Samuel agreed that it was best to keep my existence quiet. I hoped that Rush wouldn't notice the disappearance of my file, but that man notices everything. He spent the week trying to get me to talk, and I shrugged, pretending I knew nothing about my file. I could tell I was irritating him, but why should I care? He deserves it. Never had I thought I would find a mate, and when I do, he doesn't want me. Isn't that something? I respect his decision not to have me as a mate, but I just wanted to know his reason why he would go against the moon goddess, for going against the one person destined to make him happy and complete. I could think of a few reasons. My mother had always told me I was an unattractive child. I never believed her, but with so many scars covering my body, it could be a possibility. Rush probably disapproves of the way my personality is, but I would never change myself for him, mate or not. I walked to the borderline alongside Steve, Rush, and Samuel. The council was already here, and we had to await their grand entrance. 3 men with salt and pepper hair crossed over the borderline and into our pack. I could feel the aura of power that radiated off them. It made my wolf growl in my head. Weird. The councilmen are a close descendant of Lycans. We have 2 other packs in the country that are actually of Lycan blood. The power pack is like royalty. The old king was a full-blooded Lycan. No one has seen the power pack in years. After the fall of the Warzone pack, another pack with the bloodline of a Lycan, the council was made up. That's what made them so powerful. They had the protection of the power pack and a good bloodline. Nowhere near as strong as the Power Pack or Warzone Pack, but still strong enough. Alpha Rush, Alpha Samuel, the man with huge under-eye bags spoke. Harold, an honor to have you here, Samuel greeted. This is Beta Alex and Gamma Steven. We both gave a nod. I'm Kiro, it's a pleasure to meet you, Alex. He brought my hand to his mouth and gave a small kiss. I'm Lander. He paused to stare at me. Is that your natural hair color? His eyebrows wrinkling in question. No, I lied. I let a small smile slip on. I had it done in a nice little beauty salon. I ran my finger through my hair. One of the best salons I've been to in a while. I let out a small laugh. I haven't seen hair like that in years. Alex, was it? Yes. My body wanted to tense. Last name. Night. Alexandra Night. He hummed. Night? Guess I was wrong. He whispered the last part. Shall we get going? He turned back to Samuel and Rush, who were both staring at me intently for different reasons. Alpha Rush led the way to the pack house as I tried to keep my heart from beating too fast. He knew. He had to know. Did he believe my lie? No. A councilman would know when a wolf would lie, right? Stop panicking. He knows nothing. My wolf calmed me. I chose to believe her as I let out a deep breath. I made my way towards the pack house, following the group inside, silently praying for them to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 11. I sat on the small sofa with Steven to my left, listening to the conversation between the alphas and the council members. In all honesty, I wasn't entirely paying attention, only enough to know what was going on. Harold was talking about how our pack was coming along, if the wolves were getting along, all that general talk. Kiro nodded his head while Harold spoke and sent me a wink every so often. Lander kept glancing at me, then back at the alphas. It was unnerving being in his presence. If anyone could figure out who I was, it was him. He was the only one to notice my hair. Most assumed that it was dyed, but he knew the white hair was natural. I loved my hair, but I hated that I got it from my mother. Even though she is gone, she still finds a way to cause me problems. I don't remember a time when I thought my mother truly cared for me. I spent my life being mistreated until I was on the brink of collapse. Then she'd stop and let me heal for the day. My body tensed as a wave of memories rolled through me. I sometimes wished I knew who my father was. Maybe he would have saved me from her daily punishments. Maybe my 3 brothers, she told me about, would have protected me from her. Or maybe they wouldn't care. A waving hand in front of my face brought me from my thoughts. I looked to see everyone staring at me, Lander staring more harshly than the others. Sorry, I apologized. Rush cleared his throat. What is the real reason you are here? He asked the councilman. It didn't surprise me that Rush knew all of this was small talk leading up to the main issue. No matter how much I hate to admit it, Rush is actually a wise man. Kiro spoke. We have a problem. A wolf has been going around terrifying packs, looking for something. His eyes searched the room nervously, as if he was waiting for something to attack him. I sat straight at his nervous behavior. Why would a councilman be so anxious? He is stronger than the usual wolf. What are they looking for? Samuel quickly glanced at me, probably thinking the same as I. The room grew tense. I didn't like it. A key, Harold whispered. The quiet and timid behavior was a drastic change from the firm and stern tone from before. My thoughts then went back to what he said. A wolf looking for a key? What key? Rush voiced my question. Lander scanned the room. We don't know what key they are looking for, just that they are looking for one. Kiro then spoke. The wolf has killed 48 pack members from 4 different packs. We need this handled. Harold nodded in agreement. Kiro continued, Alpha Samuel, Alpha Rush, you 2 are the leaders of the 2 strong packs. We believe you are the right pick for the job. Rush and Samuel exchanged a look with both Stephen and me. This all seemed so strange. A wolf strong enough to kill that many wolves, and that strikes fear into the council, they have to be from a strong bloodline. Rush accepted the council's offer after gauging our expressions. I could tell that we were all more curious about who the wolf was than being fearful of them, like the council. Soon, the 3 old men were leaving our territory, but not before Lander shot me a glance. I held his gaze for a moment, and the wolf within me refused to back down. His eyebrows shot up in surprise at my blatant disrespect, but I could not stop her. He then turned his back and caught up with the other 2. Why would you do that? I scolded my wolf. She huffed and ignored me. A breath escaped me as I knew I had just given Lander further evidence of who I am. First, the unnatural hair color, and now the dominance that my wolf pushes to have. At times, she even shows her dominance when she feels Alpha Samuel has disrespected her. Thankfully, after many conversations about how Samuel has saved us, she has calmed down and let him be the alpha he was chosen to be. Please, goddess, don't let them see the real me. I sent a silent prayer into the sky. If they find out who I am, I'll be killed like the rest of my bloodline. I began to walk out the door with only one thought left in my head. I have to find Walker. Chapter 12. Chaos. That's the only word that came to mind. Packs all over were concerned about the wolf that was killing for some unknown reason. Red Dawn Pack was the last one attacked. All the packs near us have been on high alert, constantly watching and waiting for an attack. Nothing good has come from the attacks. No information about the leader has been found. However, we found out that the unknown wolf has a group of rogues behind it. A small group of 8 has been terrorizing packs, following the unknown leader who is said to strike quickly, killing instantly and swiftly. The way they spoke of the unknown wolf reminded me of us. We were the wolves who killed without being seen. This wolf has to be from a strong bloodline or have been trained by our warrior pack. Speculation has it that it might be Adam, a warrior wolf who left the pack 15 years ago. No one knows where he went or why he left. Whatever the reason, he's a rogue now and our possible enemy. Rogues are dangerous, unpleasant creatures. They prey on the weak and cause harm. My mother was the perfect example of a rogue. She was cold and abusive. If she could hurt her own daughter, imagine what she did to other rogues. A chill ran up my spine at the thought of her. Stephen was on border patrol during the day, while I took over at night. We decided it would be best to take turns and watch over our perimeter. I was always a night owl, so night patrol didn't bother me. Every day, I searched and called other packs, pulled files and any information on the attacks, but not much came up. 2 weeks have passed, and we still have no leads on the unknown wolf. I finally managed to get out of bed. It was noon. Last night we heard rustling in the bushes, but it turned out to be a rabbit. The guards on patrol with me were already on edge. They jumped into the bush at the sound and crushed the poor little critter. I went to take a shower, then wash my face. I slipped on my dark shorts and black tank top, with my combat boots. My hair was up in a ponytail, and soon I was descending the stairs. The smell of coffee made my legs move faster towards the kitchen. I practically jumped at the sight of the freshly brewed coffee. Even though I was perfectly fine with night patrol, I hardly slept. I poured myself a big cup of coffee and allowed myself to relax by closing my eyes and enjoying the taste of coffee on my lips. A satisfied hum left my mouth only to be followed by a low growl. My eyes popped open to see Rush staring at me from the kitchen table. I turned my back to him quickly and continued to drink my coffee. "You're not sleeping enough," he said. "I'm fine." I rolled my eyes. A low growl escaped him again. "My wolf doesn't like that you're tired." I turned to face him. "Then tell him to go away." Another growl escaped him as he rose from his chair and stalked towards me. I kept my head high as he stopped right in front of me. We stared into each other's eyes for a moment, then he reached for the coffee pot beside me. He poured himself a cup, then began to walk out of the kitchen. "Meet me in my office when you are done," he said as he exited. I could feel my heart begin to beat faster than usual. My palms were a tad sweaty. A simple look from him, and I was affected. I didn't like the way he made me feel. The Bond and the Moon Goddess were playing a dangerous game, pairing Alpha Rush and me together. I was glad to see Samuel in the office when I arrived. Seeing him would keep my emotions in check around Rush. I sat in a chair as we began discussing the situation with the unknown wolf and their group of rogues. They recited all the information, giving an overview before we started throwing ideas. "It's only a matter of time before they come here," I said as the thought came to me suddenly. "What?" they both asked. "Red Dawn Pack is only a few miles from here. If I had to guess, Yellowstone Pack is next, then us." "Perhaps," Rush mumbled. I continued, "When they do come, it is best to have wolves from our warrior pack fight. The others are not there yet. They'll be defeated instantly." "You don't think my fighters are good enough to take down rogues?" Rush said sharply. "They're good, just not ready for these specific rogues. The warriors are trained to take down the strongest of rogues. This group of rogues is killing mercilessly Alpha. A group, meaning that they are strong and very skilled. The warriors are skilled in taking down these types of rogues," I finished. "No one has encountered rogues this skilled or this strong. What makes the warriors so different?" "Because they were trained by you. You know nothing." His eyebrows scrunched together in irritation at my words. "It seems that I have affected his confidence. That's unfortunate." There was a long pause as Samuel and I allowed Alpha Rush to take a few breaths before continuing. Samuel and I then followed in taking some air as well. Samuel spoke calmly. "Alpha Rush, the warriors are trained for these rogues. They know how to take them down swiftly." "How would you know?" Rush began to clench his fists. "Because dash." I interrupted Samuel, "Because I used to be a rogue." Chapter 13. A rogue, my mate questioned. "That's what I said." He looked deep in thought before speaking again. "Even if you were a rogue, it doesn't prove you know how to take down these rogues." I let out a humorless laugh. "You know nothing of my life. I successfully eliminated one of the most dangerous rogues in the world." "And who would that be?" he asked with curiosity swimming in his electric eyes. Her face came to mind. It doesn't matter. What matters is your fighters will be defeated in seconds. Our warriors will be able to take down the rogues. We stayed in the office arguing for 3 hours over who would fight when the rogues arrived. Ultimately, Alpha Rush had made some good points. We pride ourselves on our wolves from the warrior pack for being excellent fighters, yet some of Rush's wolves had taken some warriors down when we fought for our titles. It was hard to acknowledge that he was right, but in the end, protecting our pack is all that matters. I knew Rush could handle himself. He is a natural-born alpha. He was born stronger and faster than regular wolves. Samuel could handle himself as well. He may not be a born alpha, but he has all the characteristics of one. I never worried about myself. I knew my potential and strength. I knew I could never perish at the hands of a rogue or a regular wolf, perhaps an alpha-born, but even then, I am still unsure. I busied myself with documents while Rush made calls to various packs, trying to get any information. They only told us that this group of rogues was the most vicious individuals they've ever encountered. My mind went to Walker as the phrase vicious animal was said. I remember when Samuel had called him that, but I knew it was an accident. I should have spoken up when I had the chance. The phone slammed down as his breath came out rapidly. I could feel his irritation and anger from my chair. Suddenly, there wasn't harsh breathing, only hot air beside my neck. He stood there breathing in my scent, trying to calm himself and his wolf. His eyes found mine. Was it hard? He asked. What? My voice trembled at his proximity. When you killed the rogue. I took a deep breath. Yes, it was. I was only 8 years old when I ended the rogue's life. 8 years old. He moved right in front of me, searching my eyes. It was a forced shift. A lot of things happened that day. When it was the rogue and me, my wolf decided to make an appearance. My wolf began to whimper as the image of the destroyed body popped into my head. His eyes shone with pity. I don't like it. A forced shift was the worst pain a wolf could go through. Going through a forced shift means that there was some trauma and danger involved. It usually occurs when you are close to death. I cleared my throat and looked away from his eyes. Anyways, I need your opinion on something. He looked at me to continue as he moved to take his seat. I'm assuming the leader of the group of rogues isn't going to make an appearance, meaning we should take some rogues captive to get information out of them. Samuel will want me to do the interrogation alongside you. Why you? He asked. It's what I'm good at. My eyes shone in pride as my hands tingled with excitement. I was the best at getting information out of people. We shall see. I continued working on the documents while Rush kept calling around. We kept taking side glances at each other. It prompted multiple questions. Why don't you want me? I said abruptly while dropping the documents on the table. He looked shocked for a second, then pulled his usual cold look. I already told you. I don't trust Dash. You can learn to trust me, I interrupted. You, and I know that isn't the real reason. I don't understand. We're made to complete each other and make each other happy. The words fell from my mouth. Did I want a relationship with Rush? No, that's absurd. I could hear the insecurity in my voice. I wanted to stop speaking, but I couldn't stop. Is it because of my scars? What? You think I'm unattractive because of them? Do I make you feel less of a man because I can hold my own? My mind had been filled with these questions I always wanted answered, but never wanted to ask. Where was this coming from? He sat there in silence. My wolf urged me to continue speaking. I was taught that a mate was problematic, and you can learn to trust me, so that isn't the reason. I just want to know the reason. I needed to know, to put my mind at ease and erase all the possibilities that my brain came up with. I took a deep breath, then gathered up the documents in my hands and stood up, but he didn't make a move to speak. Please excuse my behavior, Alpha. It will never happen again. I apologized for my abrupt questioning. I made my way towards the door, wanting to rid myself of the embarrassment I had made of myself. I couldn't believe I let the bond and my curiosity get the better of me. A tug on my shoulder pulled me from my thoughts. I came face to face with Rush. I'm scared, he muttered. I didn't have time to ask what he meant as his lips pressed against mine in a passionate lock. My eyes were wide in shock. My lips stayed still as I tried to process what was occurring. The documents scattered to the floor as he lifted me into his arms. My legs wrapped around him as if on instinct. My back was soon pressed against the wall, and that's when I responded. Rush gently impacted my bottom lip, asking for entrance, which I gave without a second thought. The taste of him was overwhelming. I had never felt like this before. My hands went to grip his hair. He released a low growl, then gently squeezed my lower body. My wolf began yipping with happiness. After a few minutes, we separated, looking at each other with a whirlwind of emotions, but only one stood out to me. "Who are you?" His eyes shining in concern. Chapter 14. I felt confused at his words. Who am I? What does that even mean? Why does he look afraid of me? My eyes grew wide as another thought entered my head. Does he know who I am? My lips opened to ask the concerning yet straightforward question, but before I could, he spoke first. "Get out." His soft features turned into his usual cold ones. He was no longer near me, no longer had his lips on mine, no longer held me in his grip. The moment was gone, and I feared that it wouldn't happen again. He wouldn't let himself be open again. He will continue to be cold and distant. His simple command made my eyes watery. I felt sadness sweep over me, knowing he and I would never be the type of mates wolves dreamed about. Of course, he wouldn't want me. No one wants me. I am a dangerous individual. Perhaps he has realized that, too. I picked up the documents from the floor and hurriedly ran out the door. My wolf whined and whimpered in my head. "I want a mate," she cried. I couldn't respond to her. My lips began to tremble as I pushed my legs to go faster. "Idiot!" I could hear her yell. "Unpleasant person." Her voice continued to echo in my ears. I pleaded with her to stop, but she did not. Suddenly, I was in my room. My hands felt my hair, then my face, and down all the way to my toes. My eyes closed, and I took a breath. They opened, and she was no longer here. "She's quiet," I whispered to myself. I decided to throw myself into work to keep my thoughts from her. I spent the entire day looking over documents. I didn't go down for dinner. I couldn't bear to look at him, knowing there would probably be some girl around him to show that we were nothing. Once I finished looking over all the documents and files, I decided to clear my mind for a bit and paint. I always liked to paint. It was one of the few things that kept me sane while with my mother. Actually, painting was something that kept my mother from attacking me. She admired my work. I would steal the paint and canvases from a village not far from where we stayed. However, once I ran out of canvases and paint, it was back to normal, back to my daily mistreatment, back to being close to the edge. I painted the night sky, the dark purples, the different shades of blue, some gray, a little black, and some white. Along with the night sky, I painted the woods along the bottom. The painting was a replica of the view from my window. I then painted my wolf in between the trees, a silver wolf with a matching set of silver eyes. My wolf was larger compared to other wolves and more aggressive. It took a lot out of me not to give her control, but it was safer that way. I hadn't realized I spent the night painting until I heard Stephen call me down for breakfast. Thank goodness I didn't have the night shift last night. I quickly changed into black leggings, a sports bra, and running shoes. I grabbed my hair into a ponytail and raced down the stairs. Seeing everyone seated with food meant that I was late. I grabbed a plate and filled it with a muffin, eggs, and 2 slices of bacon, then moved to sit. I felt eyes on me and assumed it was because I came late, but the longer I ate, the longer I felt the stares. I slammed my utensils on the table and glared at those staring at me. Half the table flinched back while the others continued to stare. "What?" I said sharply. Stephen made gestures to my face, then to my hands. It was then that I realized I was covered in paint. So, what if I was covered in paint? Was that a problem? "You paint?" Stephen asked hesitantly. I nodded, then continued to eat. Breakfast went like that for the next 20 minutes before I went to fulfill my duties. Stephen went to the border while I went to check whether the pack members needed any assistance. It seemed like today would be a slow day. I spent half an hour helping the pregnant ladies, then with the elderly. I was making my way towards the garden when I heard a little girl crying. My feet moved on their own accord and brought me to where the girl was. 2 boys were shoving the girl, pushing her to the ground, while she was upset. I dashed over and grabbed the 2 boys by the ears, pulling them away from the little girl. "What is the meaning of this?" I yelled. "It's okay, she's my sister," the blonde boy replied. My blood boiled at the thought of him hurting his little sister. "You will never lay a hand on your sister again, or I will have you be disciplined in front of the whole pack." His eyes went wide at my statement. To be disciplined in front of the pack brought shame to you and your family. It wasn't something taken lightly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Get out of here," I commanded. The 2 boys scurried off. I turned my attention to the girl with tears staining her face. She had a bruise on her cheek and a small cut on her arm. "Thank you," she said softly. "There's no need to thank me. He shouldn't have done that." "What is your name?" "Alice." "Well, Alice, I was on my way to the gardens to look at the flowers. Would you like to come with me?" I asked softly. She nodded her head. I held her little hand, making our way towards the garden. Once we arrived, she suggested making flower crowns, which I immediately agreed to. I hadn't been around children much, but whenever I was, I cherished every moment. Most didn't realize it, but children are smart in their own ways, seeing things others don't. We spent the day making a bunch of flower crowns as she told me about herself. The sun began to go down, and I decided it was time to take Alice home. Alice had a lovely family. I told her parents about what had occurred earlier. Her parents looked ready to confront their son. They thanked me for watching out for Alice. Truth was, I didn't mind being with her. She held so much innocence. It was refreshing to see what a normal childhood consisted of, making flower crowns, playing with friends, and watching cartoons. I walked my way to the border, knowing my shift was going to begin any minute. When I arrived, there was no one in sight. That's odd. I began sniffing around, trying to figure out what was happening. And that's when I smelled it. Rogues. Chapter 15. I shifted as soon as the scent of rogues hit me. The metallic scent filled my nostrils as I saw the border patrolman severely injured. My wolf pounded towards the faint heartbeat of Richard, a night patrolman. I saw the light leave his eyes as his final breath rang through my head. I gasped at the bubbling feeling that rose in my chest, anger. The rogues heard my intake of breath, turning to see me a foot away. They began to run at me. I reacted quickly, dodging one attack as I ran for a minute to give myself a reasonable distance to fight. Rogues on the south side border, I sent the mind link to any wolf who could fight. I turned to face my enemies. The packs that were attacked were wrong. This wasn't a group of wolves, it was a pack. About 100 rogues stood at the borderline, waiting for a moment. I felt the paws thump from behind me. I felt a bit anxious. I made my way towards the alphas, Samuel and Rush in the front, both still in human form. The rogue at the center turned into his human form, standing in all his power. The adversary knows you have the key. Give it up, the rogue snarled, his teeth dark and yellow. We have no key. Leave my territory, or you shall die where you stand, Rush commanded. The rogue then turned back into his wolf form, showing that he and his pack would not leave. Soon, the howls and growls of rage and pain filled the air. The scent of blood wafted through my nostrils as I fought the rogues. I clawed, bit, and struck any rogue that dared to attack me. A cry filled the air. Stephen lay still on the ground, covered in blood. My wolf was fighting to be released, but I couldn't let her, not now. I took out 5 more rogues, but the sound of more cries and whimpers called to me. Our pack members lay on the ground, close to death. Samuel was limping, and Rush had a large cut on his side, but kept fighting. More fighters joined the conflict. Some died, others lay on the floor close to death. This was going to be a dangerous struggle. My wolf whimpered at the sight of her mate struggling. Soon rage coursed through me. I couldn't fight the rogues and save my people as my wolf was fighting to take over control. I snapped the rogue's neck and moved to the next. The whimper of my mate caught my attention. I raced to the other side of the field, only to find my mate with no severe injuries. She had a couple of minor scratches, but nothing major to whimper out. I saw Alpha Samuel rush to her side, looking into her wolf eyes. She kept shaking her head and moving her body awkwardly. It was like she was having an internal battle. I couldn't hear what Alpha Samuel whispered to her, but I saw my mate shake her head hesitantly. He stepped away from her. Retreat. Alpha Samuel used his alpha command. My wolf snarled in disagreement. What kind of alpha retreats? Our fighters ran to safety, dragging some of our injured ones. My eyes took in the pained look some wolves of the warrior pack threw to my mate. Their eyes never moved off of her wolf form. I could see her green eyes widen in fright. They all moved to the front of the pack house, where we were still visible. Alpha Samuel came next to me. You have to move. Go with the rest, his voice coming out quickly. I growled at him. Who is he to command me? If he wants to be a coward, he can, but I will not. Please, you'll understand soon, he pleaded. My wolf whined as I moved to attack another rogue, but my legs didn't comply with my command. Instead, they began to walk towards our fighters, all watching Alpha Samuel and my mate. I pushed my body to move forward, but I couldn't. All I could do was sit there on my hind legs and watch as the rogues attacked my mate. Without our help, they would both be defeated. My wolf cried out, panicking, digging his paws into the dirt, trying to move, but again, nothing. It was at that moment that I knew who was responsible, the moon goddess. If she wanted me in this spot, this is where I have to be. The rogues had stopped moving to look at what we were doing, curiosity shining in their eyes. I'm sorry, Alpha Samuel apologized to Alex. He looked my mate in the eyes, then turned and ran to us. Anger consumed me as he left her to be defeated alone. How could the moon goddess want this? It doesn't make sense. All eyes were on her. There was a sudden switch in the air. An aura of dominance washed over the field. All I could see was her wolf shaking out her fur, while displaying a fierce wolf grin on her face. Her eyes turned to a steel silver, digging her paws into the ground, then leaping to attack. It was like a blur. Opponents were swiftly defeated. Injuries covered the now red field. Blood was all over her fur, but she didn't seem to mind it. In fact, she seemed to enjoy it. She had a rogue in her mouth, bringing him towards us and laying him down at our feet. I could hear his heart. He was barely alive. Many of the rogues ran off as Alex prevailed flawlessly and fiercely. Who is she? The question rang in my head. Alex, we're safe. You kept us safe. Alpha Samuel softly caressed her snout. The forest green eyes returned, mirroring our expression of horror. She let out a whine, causing Alpha Samuel to stroke the top of her head gently. He leaned in to whisper an apology. A tear slid down his face as he stared at my mate. It was then that I realized what had happened. She used to be a rogue. She and her wolf are not in sync. Her wolf is wild, fearless, and a powerful fighter. But no rogue is that powerful. Who are you, little mate? Chapter 16. Guilt flooded over me. When I turned to look at the field, injuries and bodies were scattered around. I knew letting my wolf loose was needed to fight these rogues, but at what cost? I feared that my nightmares would return. I feared that I would have new difficulties sleeping. I feared myself. The look of horror etched onto everyone's face made what I did sink in further. The warriors had seen me like this before. It wasn't a pretty sight. I watched as the wolves slowly started to walk away, dragging some of our pack to medical, some to the pack house, and some to the cells. The warriors had caught 2 rogues and put them down there, along with the one I decided not to kill. My eyes soon found Rush's, filled with the same horror, but had a hint of awe. I turned my back quickly and ran through the woods, wanting to clear my mind. I could hear Samuel telling Rush not to follow me, and for that I was thankful. My wolf was silent as I wove my way through the trees. I pushed my paws into the ground, suddenly stopping. I needed to stop. I needed to take a breath. My ears twitched at the sound of a small animal. I stood on my 4 legs and ran again. I spent 2 hours running, repeating the short conflict over and over in my head. The look on the faces of the rogues when they knew they were next. The loud cries that shook me to my core, the spilt blood on the grass. Everyone is going to see me for the individual I truly am. Making my way back to the pack house, I kept my head high, not wanting anyone to see how I truly felt. I walked up the stairs in my wolf form until I reached my room to shower. I put the water on scorching hot, feeling a slight discomfort, trying to discipline myself for the actions I have committed. Turning the water off and stepping out, I found myself in front of the mirror. My wolf flashed her silver eyes that I once thought were beautiful, now reminded me of a sleek, sharp knife. My white hair was my curse and a symbol to all that I was dangerous. My red lips, the same shade of blood. The scars that cover my arm remind me of loss and pain. I stepped away from the mirror and threw on some black pants, a red tank top, and my combat boots. I ran my fingers through my hair, then made my way downstairs and out of the pack house. I had to put my feelings aside for the moment. Getting information out of the rogues is what is important right now. I took a deep breath before opening the steel door to the cells. The dark passageway held a few candles to light the way. Multiple voices sounded as I began to near, but it was one voice that caught my attention. Lander. Chapter 17. Her blood ran cold at the sound of the elder's voice, who was followed by the other elders' voices. She knew they had arrived to see and interrogate the rogues. They must have arrived while she was gone on her run. She swiped her sweaty palms across the fabric of her pants, then entered the dimly lit cells. She passed by many cells, seeing the rogues who were slowly weakening. The stench of blood engulfed the room. She walked until Alpha Samuel met her. The others turned to look at the new arrival before turning back to the three rogues. "Who are you working for?" Alpha Rush questioned. No reply. His fist impacted the rogue's cheek. "What do they want?" He questioned again. No reply. His fist slammed into the rogue's head, causing the rogue to cry out in pain. He clutched his head, trying to stop the room from spinning. Once it did, he wished the room would keep turning. The rogue urgently shoved his two companions, looking to the left and pointing. Their eyes widened as they all squeezed to the corner of the cell, far away from her. The wolves didn't miss the act. Alpha Rush opened the cell door wider, causing the rogues to squeeze further into the corner. Alpha Rush opened his mouth to speak, but was cut off with a shrill sound from the rogues. "Demon child." The words echoed off the wall, seemingly leaving no effect on the wolves until a simple word reached their ears. "No," Alex whispered, disbelief etching her face. All eyes went to her as she shared a look of knowing with Alpha Samuel. She repeated the word over and over, not wanting to believe what this meant. She rushed into the cell, grabbing a rogue by the throat, letting her claws draw blood. "Tell me this isn't true," she pleaded, her eyes filled with fright, her voice slightly trembling. "Demon child has the key. Key belongs to Demon." The crazed laughter of the rogue echoed throughout the cell. She threw the rogue to the ground with a significant amount of force, causing the rogue to whimper. Her hands began pulling on her hair as she walked out of the cell. From her hair, her hands turned into fists, and she started punching the concrete walls. She looked like a truly distressed person, but she could not stop it. She could not stop herself. "How did I not put this together?" she cried. She knew who their enemy was, an enemy she never wanted to encounter again. The only thing I could do was stare at my mate. She had so much anger and aggression, I never knew one could possess so much. Alpha Samuel went to calm her down as the elders looked curiously over my mate, Lander, staring more intently. We managed to get her into my office calmly. Before we could ask her any questions, she sprang from her seat and began to pace. "I can't be here," her eyes wide as a frightened animal. "I have to go," she continued to pace. "Why did he call you Demon Child?" Harold asked sternly. The simple name caused her feet to stop. "My mother used to call me the demon's child and herself, the demon." Her eyes looked hollow as she spoke. "My mother raised me as a rogue. She was one of the most feared rogues out there. Every day, she'd hurt me until I was on the verge of defeat. She eliminated whatever happiness I had," she began to recount. "When I was 8, I made a friend who was another rogue. I kept the friendship a secret because I was scared of what my mother would do. I don't know how, but she found out. On July 8th, my mother severely injured me to the point where I could no longer move. She tied me to a chair, then brought in my rogue friend and ended her life right in front of me." A small chuckle escaped her mouth, causing my body to shudder involuntarily. The noise was haunting. The tears began to trickle down her face. I had a forced shift that day. She was caught by surprise when I had shifted and attacked her. Her body was severely wounded and I heard no pulse. I thought I killed her. She wrapped her arms around herself. But I guess it's true. You can't defeat a war zone, especially not the daughter of the war zone alpha. Tension and shock filled the air. You can't defeat a war zone, a phrase that has been ingrained into every wolf, spread throughout our world. A wolf of warzone blood stood before us, shaken and scared of another warzone wolf. The warzone pack was eliminated 30 years ago, when every pack in the country waged war against them. All pack members are supposed to be defeated. The warzone pack was mighty because they were a direct descendant of Lycans, just like the power pack. The pack consisted solely of harsh individuals. You're here. It all makes sense now. You have warzone blood in you. Lander shrieked as he jumped out of his chair. I do, but I am nothing like them, my mate argued, her eyes hollow. Oh, please. You expect us to believe you're not like them. We know what happened on the field with the rogues. You're a genetic abnormality. The room fell silent to Elder Lander's words. The Warzone Pack members were called a derogatory term, a strong insult that would have led to severe retaliation by their pack. I expected to see my mate shaking with rage. Instead, she looked sad and hurt. My wolf stirred within me, not liking all the looks his mate was receiving. A low growl slipped through my teeth, causing Lander to look at me. Something to say, young one? He said sharply. Another growl slipped out, but with more anger. Don't speak of my mate that way. Trouble. What have I just done? Chapter 18. Mate? The elder's voice rang through the office, probably trying to understand how someone like me would end up with Rush. Or why he was cursed to have a mate who is of Warzone blood. You accept her? Do you know the stories of that pack? Lander spoke sharply. Everyone knew the stories of the Warzone pack. The pack was made up of only Warzone blood. Once a member of the Warzone family found their mate, they would have children, then eliminate their mate. They would then raise their children to do the same. There was to be no outsider allowed into the family, believing that they were above everyone else because they were also direct descendants of Lycans. My blood makes me stronger, faster, and I can heal faster than an alpha. The Warzone pack hurt and hunted many wolves for the sheer pleasure of it. After years, all the packs in America came together to wage a war against the Warzone pack. It was said that no survivors were left, yet here I am. I am aware of the stories, but she is nothing like them. She didn't grow up with the Warzone pack. She grew up in the warrior pack, Rush growled. Like that matters. We all saw what she truly is on the field, Lander argued. We can focus on me later. Right now we have bigger things to worry about. Like my mother, I interrupted. The elders nodded their heads hesitantly, but knew I was right. Right now, our enemy was out there and ready for conflict, specifically my blood. Chapter 19. The elders got out of the pack as soon as they could. They no longer wanted to be in my presence, fearful that I might become violent at any moment. Though my wolf side relished in their fear, the rest of me didn't. Right now, I need the elders on my side. Who knows what those old men would do now that they know the truth? Rush practically shoved me out of his office before I could even bring up the subject of our mating. I swear the only thing that makes that man nervous is the idea of a mate. I think it should have been the opposite, since I was in the warrior pack, taught to disregard the idea of a mate, and yet here I am, wanting to be with the stubborn and ruthless alpha Rush stupid bond. I decided to take the day off to stay in my room and figure out what angle my mother was playing. It made no sense to me why this woman would be looking for me. She never loved me. She never even liked me. And what is the key? Am I the key? Do I possess the key? I pulled out all the documents we have on past attacks and posted them on my wall. I grabbed the red string and blue string, connecting them to pictures and documents. I moved away from the wall to get a better look. No one here could figure out her plan, but I have information about her that no one else does. I knew this woman for 8 years, 8 unpleasant years, but 8 years nonetheless. If anyone could figure out her play, it was me. It was as if I had been staring at the walls for hours until I finally noticed something. A question nagged at my head as I stared at the well-taken photos. Who managed to take pictures of the attack while it was happening? When an attack is happening, my first thought isn't, hey, let me take a photo. Wolves have an instinct to protect the children, women, and elderly, while the men fight. The women would be fearful for their young. They wouldn't take a photo. Children would be too scared even to look, and the elderly could hardly move. That means a male took it. If it were a male who took these photos and made them look this clear and lovely, the person would have to be calm. Otherwise, his hands would shake, and the picture would come out a bit blurry. I moved to reread the documents, going line by line, reading the same sentence over and over again. The sentence didn't sit well with me. The pack of rogues seems to be led by a leader. No other information is provided. I read the sentence over again. I even read it out loud, sang it, clapped it out in syllables, anything to figure out why it seemed so off to me, but to no avail. I let out a sigh before making my way out of my room and downstairs. I let the sentence repeat in my mind as I opened the fridge to get out the leftovers from dinner. I hadn't realized I hadn't eaten until I saw how dark it was outside. I leaned against the counter, closing my eyes and rubbing my temples, letting a deep breath out. Goddess, I'm stressed out. The microwave dinged, signaling that my food was ready. I didn't make a move for it, still repeating the sentence in my head. Aren't you going to open that? The husky voice snapped me out of my thoughts. My eyes snapped open and connected with the man who rushed me out of his office. I sighed, then went to open the microwave, placing the plate onto the countertop. I grabbed a fork and began eating the chicken pieces. I can't find it, I sighed. Find what? The link. I'm stuck. I can't find out what that woman is going to do next. That's not your fault. He moved closer to me, heat affecting my skin. It is. I should have made sure she was eliminated before I ran off. I shoved another piece of chicken into my mouth. You were a child, Dash. I interrupted, a child who knew better. I knew how cruel she was. Now she's stronger and is commanding rogues. She's even more dangerous. You couldn't have guessed that she would be alive, or that she would have a group of rogues following her, attacking for her. But I should have known. Alex, Dash. I interrupted again. Wait, what did you just say? You couldn't have known, Dash. No, not that. The part about the rogues. The group of rogues attacking for Dash. A group. I interrupted him again as he let out an annoyed sigh. Rush, I know why that sentence kept bothering me, I said as I ran up the stairs with my mate following behind. I pushed open the door and ran to the wall of documents and photos, while pulling Rush beside me. I pointed out the photo of rogues. The document says the pack of rogues, no one has called them a pack. We didn't even know they had so many until they attacked our pack. Every other pack was attacked with a small group of 8 or 9. Then I moved to rip the picture off the wall, shoving it into Rush's face. Look at the picture. It's perfect, almost like someone knew an attack was going to happen, and look at the angle. The photo was taken above and away from the fight. Are you saying what I think you're saying? He questioned. I nodded. There's a traitor. Chapter 20. I practically threw the phone at Rush to make the call to the Red Moon Pack about the possible traitor. My body was shivering in excitement that I finally found a piece of the puzzle. The puzzle is not complete yet, but it will be. I heard as he held the phone to his ear, speaking to Alpha Kane about the possible traitor in his pack. He yelled a couple of times, then stopped and said he would investigate. That was all we needed to hear. Do you think he'll find the traitor? I asked. Alpha Kane is a smart man. I'm sure he'll figure it out within the week. I smiled at that, knowing that we've possibly taken down one of my mother's men. I needed some good news after everything about my past came out. My smile soon turned into a frown as a new thought came rushing in. What if my mother retaliates? What if she kills more wolves? What if she attacks my pack again? What if she attacks Rush? Stop thinking so much. That's my job. Rush attempted a joke. I let a little chuckle out at his attempt. But as Luna, it's also my job, I joked back. Suddenly, the room went still at my attempt to clear the tension. Maybe it was too soon? We are the Luna, my wolf growled. Right. We should get some sleep and talk tomorrow, I said as I walked to the door. A simple grunt was all I needed to exit the room. Alexandra, you are so beautiful, a man cooed to a baby in his arms. He was a rather large man with a bulky frame, almost as big as Rush. He sat down in a rocking chair with the baby in his arms, humming an old tune to her. I remembered humming that tune myself. I used to do it to calm myself down after my mother would hurt me. The scene then changed to a black-haired boy running around with another little boy with white blonde hair, like mine. I had a sickening feeling in my gut as I watched the boys run and play. Was this my family? A familiar white blonde-haired woman entered the scene. Her eyes were different. They seemed happy? The scene changed again to the black-haired man and my mother fighting. They were yelling at each other as the black-haired little boy was shaking in fear and his brother was crying uncontrollably. Then the unexpected happened. A knife was driven into the black-haired man's stomach. It was as if I could feel his pain. Screaming. That's what I heard when I woke up to the earth-shattering screech. I tried to jump out of bed and find where it came from, but my legs wobbled. My hands and my whole body were shaking and I felt weak. My knees soon came in contact with the wooden floor, as did the palms of my hands. I hadn't felt this weak since living with my mother. My bedroom door slammed open, revealing a half-dressed Rush. His eyes searched the room until they landed on my crouched form. His arms came around me, pulling me up and onto the bed in a sitting position. He searched my body for any harm, but soon realized I was fine. Why did you scream? His tone showed the alpha in him. I was having a nightmare. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had yelled, my voice trembling. Why were you on the floor then? He questioned. I was a bit shaken from the dream. My legs gave out. I'm fine now, you can go. I expected him to leave, but he surprised me by pulling me into his chest. I let my arms wrap around his toned body, feeling secure and safe. I don't know if Rush and I would ever be loving mates, but for now, I would take whatever I could get. With my mother alive, I needed him around. The bond makes me feel secure, like no harm could come to me, like my mother will not be able to hurt me again. At this moment, I need that reassurance. I need him. Perhaps this is why mates were created? Chapter 21. Days went by as we prepared for the upcoming war with my mother. Border Patrol has been reinforced, fighters were being trained strictly by me, and I continued to have nightmares. The nightmares plagued my sleep to the point where I no longer wished to sleep. However, Rush came into my room every night, making sure I slept. His presence brought me a sense of security and comfort. At first, he would lie there, not speaking a word. An awkward silence would fill the room, but as the days went by, everything changed. He would ramble about things that happened to him when he was younger, letting me fall asleep to his soothing voice or run his hand through my hair, lulling me to sleep. I no longer screamed myself awake, only gasped as if the air was taken out of me, but it was progress. In these past few nights, I learned that Rush is very close to his parents and likes to have dinner with them every Sunday. When he was a teen, his main hobby was skateboarding. He told me he had long hair and bangs to go with his skater look. Goddess, I would pay to see that. Our relationship is slowly growing, which scares me. I was taught that mates were a weakness, yet being around him makes me feel stronger and safer. My mind constantly fought with me over the way I felt about Rush. Samuel saw my internal struggle and told me that it was okay to disregard some of our pack's values, to forget everything that was ingrained into our heads. I promised to try, but the bond isn't my #1 priority right now. I will let our relationship grow naturally. If anything develops, then I will accept it. After the war, if our relationship grows, I shall be named Luna of this pack. Alpha Samuel has agreed to let Rush and me take over. Before all of this had happened, Samuel had chosen me to be the alpha of the warrior pack when he was to step down. It all seemed to fall into place, like the moon goddess knew this would all happen. The moon goddess works in mysterious ways, my wolf acknowledged. Tomorrow, I am going to have dinner with Rush's parents. Rush said that meeting the parents would be the first step in taking our bond to the next level. I agreed, even though part of me didn't care to meet his parents. Though the thought of meeting the people who made Rush made me nervous, and I usually don't get nervous. Though I suppose meeting my mate's parents for the first time is somewhat nerve-wracking, especially with my current state. If I wasn't training the fighters, I was on patrol or working on more documents. Alpha Kane found the traitor in his pack almost instantly. However, no matter how severely the traitor was treated, he didn't talk and ended up with a knife to the chest. We were right back at square one. That didn't make anyone happy. So here I am, snuggling into the arms of my mate until he wakes up. In my eyes, he was perfection. I loved his raven black hair. It went well with his electric blue eyes. His jaw is sharp with some stubble that makes him look even more handsome. If that's even possible. I wondered if we had a child, whether it would have his raven hair or my snow white hair. Would he or she have my green eyes or his blue? The only thing I knew for sure was that they would be beautiful. A chill ran up my spine at my thinking. A child? Could I actually have a future with this man? No, that's absurd. Staring at someone sleeping is considered creepy, a husky voice sounded. I was observing, not staring, I defended. His hand reached out to cut my cheek. I like it when you blush. At his comment, my face grew hot. Come on, we have work to do. He got out of bed, then looked for clothes. I could feel my wolf push forward as he changed out of his shirt, putting his abs on display. Next thing I knew, he had a blue dressy shirt on. My wolf growled in my head as his hands reached for the hem of his basketball shorts, about to pull them down, but suddenly stopped. My eyebrows scrunched in confusion as an exasperated sigh left my mouth. The sound of loud laughter caused me to look up into my mate's eyes. Pervert, he chuckled. My wolf retreated to the back of my mind, trying to hide away from her embarrassment. I hid underneath the covers, trying to control the emotions running through me. The mate bond is a strange thing. At times, I was entirely captivated by Rush. At other times, I wanted to hide away from it all, not to feel the overwhelming emotion that affects my mind. The day went by smoothly with no new threats to our pack. Alpha Kane had called to talk to Rush about the upcoming war, saying he wanted to be a part of it. Surprisingly, Alpha Kane was not the only one who wanted to join. Every pack that was attacked, and those who wanted to rid themselves of the threat, offered to help. It was a kind and noble gesture, but we had to decline it. Bringing other packs into this war would only reveal my mother's identity, along with mine. I do not have the elders on my side to help calm the nerves of neighboring packs about my existence, so it is better to leave my identity as Alex the Warrior. However, with their respectful decline of our request for help, we gained the attention of the Power Pack. And that was not good. Chapter 22. On the inside, I was convulsing with nerves, but to Rush's family, I looked calm and collected. I sat with my back straight in the chair, carefully choosing my words. Rush probably assumed that my warrior side was up, and that's why I was acting like this. A lie. I was acting like this because I didn't want Rush's family to have anything against me. So many people already don't like me, I couldn't have my own mate's family hate me as well. I kept conversations polite and straightforward, with a lot of please and thank yous. The plate of steak and potatoes arrived in front of me. With a lift of the fork and steak knife, I dug in with grace. Goddess, I feel like I'm at a tea party with all these manners. Perhaps I should drink my glass of water with my pinky up. The sound of my low chuckle brought the attention of the group before me. Is something funny, dear? Rush's mother, Eleanor, said with elegance. I cleared my throat. No, ma'am, just an old memory, I lied. Do tell us, Alex. We would love to hear a story from you, his father, Kane said. Oh no. I just caused trouble for myself. What was I going to say? I have no funny memories. I don't even have happy memories. It took me a second to think of anything relatively good. I cleared my throat again. A smile grew on my face. This one time my mother chased me around the house, trying to injure me with her favorite knife, but she ended up slipping on the small rug in the living room and injured herself in the leg. My laughter boomed across the dinner table. I had to wipe a few tears away from laughing so hard. I would pay to see that again, I added. As soon as my laughter died down, I saw the look of horror on my mate's family's faces. To say this was awkward was an understatement. I grabbed my glass of water and chugged it down. Once again, I cleared my throat, hoping it would ease the awkwardness. Dear, did you say your mother tried to harm you? Eleanor asked hesitantly. I nodded slowly. Oh. That had to be the most uncomfortable dinner of my life, and I've been shot before at a dinner, so that was saying a lot. My head was currently hiding under my blankets, trying to push the embarrassment away, though I don't think anything could make this feeling go away. All night, I had been very meticulous about my words, and the moment I finally relaxed a little, I made everything silent and awkward. It's at these moments that I wonder if my mother was right about me. Was I truly unwanted? A stupid nuisance? It wasn't that bad. Rush tugged the blanket off, an awkward smile gracing his face. I stared at him blankly. Okay, it was, but my mother said she really likes you. He grabbed my hand. Don't worry about it. We'll have plenty more dinners where you can show them how lucky we are to have you. He kissed my nose, making me giggle. That's right, giggle. The powerful, fighting warrior just giggled like a little girl. This is disconcerting. I'm going to be unwell. Lovesick, my wolf added. He continued to give me little kisses, some on my nose, some on my forehead, cheeks, and finally my jaw. I loved being showered in affection, but only by him. His lips soon went to kiss down my neck, bringing me a new sensation. His mouth pressed against the area that would bear his mark. His behavior had changed ever since that day he told the elders that we were mates. At times, he became distant, but it was improving. I knew our relationship was getting better and more intimate, but I still didn't fully trust him yet. I knew why I chose to embrace the bond. I am tired of fighting off this constant pull he has over me. I want to be loved, even if it lasts for a moment, but what was his reason? Why would he choose to give in to the mate bond when I know something is holding him back? I can see it in the way he looks away when I try to get to know him. I pushed on his chest lightly, signaling for him to stop his advances. I'm not ready yet, I whispered out. He pushed himself away from me with a grunt. I knew he was probably upset, probably even felt rejected, but I just wasn't there yet. This relationship was new and still growing. If he were to mark me, there would be no turning back. I would be trapped in a bond, unable to leave. Rush dash. No, he slammed the bedroom door. Dramatic person. Chapter 23. Rush didn't sleep in the room last night. I assumed that he was still upset over my decision. Sleep didn't come to me last night. I tossed and turned, silently begging for Rush to return to my side and hug me till I fell asleep, but that didn't happen. I woke up and went to patrol, taking over for Steven. Steven told me he would take the night shifts because Rush told him to switch with me, so he and I could spend our nights together. I thought it was romantic of him to switch my shift with Steven so we could be together. It made my feelings for him grow. He was a cold, rude person, but I did care for that idiot, even if I didn't want to admit it. Patrolling wasn't anything interesting. It was rather boring. I walked around the border, checking on the other wolves on patrol, making sure everyone was alive and well, and making sure no rogues passed. I started my patrolling on the east and then moved to the west. My boots pounded against the ground, making my rounds. Branches, leaves, and flowers crunched as my boots stomped all over them. I was slightly angry that Rush was upset over the fact that I was not ready to do more with him, though I understood his anger. Most mates become intimate with each other when they first meet, but Rush and I were not those types of mates. I sometimes wished our meeting had been like a fairy tale. The girl and the guy meet, fall in love, and then have a family. A simple life. That's all I have ever wanted, but I knew I was meant for something bigger than that. Sometimes I feel as if the moon goddess is guiding me to my fate. She steers me in the right direction, knowing how this will all play out. All I can do is trust that she has planned a simple life for me after this is all over. Alex. A voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to find one of the patrol wolves running towards me. I believe his name is Jesse. Beta Alex, there is an unusual smell near the west side border, he said quickly. I nodded, then followed the wolf. As we came closer to the west border, the smell of iron and burnt wood filled my nose. The scent seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. That's odd, I always remember a smell. I remember. My wolf spoke softly before retreating to the back of my mind. Have you seen anything unusual or anything that stands out? I asked the patrol wolves, shrugging off my wolf's strange behavior. There are some tracks over here, Ryland, another patrol wolf called. Looking down at the tracks, it was hard to identify who it was. They were tracks of a person, nothing unusual about that. Though, how did someone manage to get close to our border? Why does that smell familiar? Alpha Samuel suddenly appeared beside me. Rush followed closely behind him, making a face at the stench. "That's offensive," he said. I crouched low, putting my hands over the tracks, trying to remember where I knew this from. I put my nose to the ground, inhaling as much as I could, when the sound of a crow reached my ears. I stood up, seeing the crow stare at me from the tree branch right in front of me. It was as if everything clicked together in that moment. "Oh no! Everyone back now!" I said forcefully. Murmurs of confusion went around. Before anyone could move away, the sickly pale, white-haired man appeared in front of us. A wicked smirk etched onto his face. "Sister, it's been a long time." Chapter 24. The small cottage sat at the center of the woods, hidden from the humans. The small girl with white pigtails sat silently on the kitchen chair, while the woman with frizzy white hair stared at her son. The only people that knew of her son were the woman and the little girl. Her son was her prized possession, that was kept in a pack nearby for his safety. The boy with white hair cared for his half-sister, but knew it was a weakness to show how much he cared for her. Instead, he left her alone to endure their harsh mother. On the little girl's 8th birthday, everything changed. Her friend had just been eliminated in front of her. She had just shifted into her wolf and defeated her mother. She sat covered in blood, crying for the loss of her innocence. Her half-brother came to her like an angel sent from the moon goddess. He was younger than her, but mentally, he was an old soul. The alpha of his pack had been mentoring him since he arrived, and this was the perfect time to put all that knowledge into helping his sister. He cleaned her up with a slightly dirty rag and told her of a pack that would accept her and love her. The moon goddess had come to him and showed him the way. He was told that his sister was to complete her destiny. The boy could not argue with his creator and felt a rush of energy flow through him. He apologized for not helping his sister, but he was scared to defy his mother, scared he too would become a victim of mistreatment. He stole a new dress for her from one of the young female wolves in his pack, then tried to fix her hair and led her to the warrior pack. His feet moved automatically as the goddess guided him through the trees. He dropped her off, saying he'd be back to visit. They were the only family they had. The young boy kept his promise and visited his sister every week. He would sneak out of his pack and go visit his sister. She told him of how well she was treated. For once, she was happy. Years passed by, and the boy and the girl continued to meet. At the age of 11, her half-brother was found by a vampire near the warrior pack. The vampire attacked the boy, severely injuring him. If it weren't for his half-sister and her new pack, he'd be dead. They told the alpha who they were to each other. Knowing they were family, he allowed the boy to visit his sister. It wasn't until a month later that the boy attacked his sister. He had been turned into a vampire during his near-death experience. He never once craved the blood of his sister, but having not fed in a while made him agitated. He lunged for his sister, almost defeating her. Luckily, the alpha had taught her a few moves to protect herself. This time, it was the little girl who was almost found severely injured. They banished the little boy from coming near his sister again, for she feared her brother. Since then, on every birthday, the little girl received an unknown gift, followed by a crow. It was him, and now he was making his appearance. Chapter 25. Sister, it's been a long time. My body grew stiff as I heard his raspy, sinister voice. It felt as if a bucket of water had splashed on me. I had not heard from my brother in years. He had said he was leaving me alone, and yet, here he is. What are you? Rush inquired, stepping in front of me. I would have thought the motion sweet, as if he wanted to protect me, but my entire focus stood on my brother. I'm her brother, Walker replied with a smirk, casually leaning against the tree. My eyes were glued to his like a never-ending staring match. His eyes always showed his intentions. The dark black eyes shifted slightly to the left, then back to mine. I could feel an urgency radiating from his stance. What could be so urgent that he needed to find me? Why are you here, Walker? I found my voice. Can't I visit my big sister? He feigned innocence. I walked forward and grabbed his hand. Are you working for her? I asked slowly. This was the only logical explanation. He had to know she was alive. His eyebrows scrunched in confusion. Working for who? I let go of his hand at his genuine tone. He didn't know. I turned to Samuel and Rush. I need to speak with my brother in private. Rush grunted, while Samuel agreed hesitantly. The pair of alphas led my brother and me to Rush's office. I could already hear the whispers going around the pack of the newcomer. I knew that his scent was different from the rest. I was only 11 when my brother attacked me, though I know it was because he was a new vampire with urges he could not control yet. It pained me that at the time, I couldn't see things so clearly. I let Samuel banish him from ever seeing me again, but every birthday, he'd leave me a gift at the border, followed by a crow. The crow was my brother's trademark. As soon as it appeared, I knew it could only be one person. We arrived at the office, only to have Rush settle himself into his chair, waiting for us to talk. Samuel moved into one of the chairs as well. I understood why they sat down. This is their pack. They need to be here. I directed Walker into a chair beside mine. Why are you here, Walker? I asked. He looked from Samuel to me. My pack kicked me out. He responded solemnly. I saw the slight pain flicker through his eyes. I nodded for him to continue. I was mated to a girl from the pack, the beta's daughter. The pack was already uneasy with a vampire within its pack, but they left it alone because I had been there since I was a pup. However, they didn't accept a pack wolf being mated to a vampire. They killed her, Alex. His eyes began to turn a vibrant red color. I have nowhere else to go. I went to find you, but you were gone. Took me a month to track you down. He gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry, Walker. I clutched his hand in mine, his eyes slowly turning back to a dark abyss. Tell him, my wolf urged. With a breath in, I let the words spill out. I know the last thing you want to hear is more bad news, but I have to tell you if you're not being protected by the pack anymore. I looked into his eyes. She's alive. Mom's alive, Walker. That's impossible. He stood up with a snarl, causing Rush and Samuel to tense. I saw her body. Spit flew from his mouth. I didn't strike deep enough, I explained. She's coming after me, Walker. I let my fear slip through, causing my voice to falter. He pulled me into a hug. I won't let her hurt you, Alex. Not again. We sat there for a while, catching each other up on our lives. I told him of finding my difficult mate, while he told me of the good times he spent with his mate before she passed. It pained me to know that his mate was killed, simply because he was not a wolf. The only thing that keeps me optimistic is the fact that my brother might have a beloved, since he is also a vampire. My brother forcefully requested that he be allowed to live here to protect me, and when the time comes, defeat our mother. Rush yelled and argued, but soon accepted his request. Rush knew that having my brother on our side was an advantage. Sure, I had Warzone blood in me, making me stronger and faster than everyone else, but my mother and I were evenly matched. With Walker by my side, I had an advantage. He has Warzone blood, making him a stronger and faster vampire. His speed is twice as fast as mine. I enjoyed my brother's presence as we ate dinner. Rush announced to the pack who our newcomer was. The scent of fear surrounded us as we ate, but no one commented on the arrival of a vampire. I spent dinner having a colorful conversation with my brother. He made me laugh and almost choke on my food. It was nice having him around. He made me feel safe. However, I feared for his safety. Now that he is by my side, I am scared of what our mother would do to him. To her, it would seem as if he betrayed her. I would never want Walker to experience what I did. I prayed to the moon goddess that my mother would leave us alone, but I knew that was too big a request. Chapter 26. 2 weeks later. Walker has made himself quite comfortable around here. I found it especially amusing when he and Rush would talk. Walker has this way of annoying Rush to no end. I may never have met my father, nor my 3 brothers my mother spoke of, but at least I had Walker. His being from some random wolf did not affect me. In my eyes, he is my true brother, my only family. When I wasn't with Walker, I was training the fighters. I saw the mistakes when the rogues attacked. We trained for 6 hours a day every day. We have no time to waste. This upcoming battle will be rough and won't end until one pack is completely defeated. Currently, I am carving random designs into the bedside table with my knife as Rush showers. I was stuck in a battle between my heart and my mind. My mind said to focus on the war that's coming. My heart told me I can focus on the war and my mate and myself, but what if my heart was wrong? What if I made a move forward with Rush and the universe decided to punish me again? I could not take any more hurt. I had to adjust coming into this pack. I never had anything or anyone to live or care for before. I was the first one thrown into battle, not fearing if I would die. I celebrated with the blood of my enemies covering my skin like a warm blanket. I knew I could no longer be that way. I saw the horror in the eyes of the pack when they saw what I had done. I used to live in fear of others. Now it upsets me. This is going to be my pack soon. I couldn't be the bloodthirsty Luna. I need to live for Rush and for our future. The creak of the door pulled me from my internal battle. Just seeing my handsome mate gave me comfort. He was a difficult person at times, but I knew he loved me. I could see it in his eyes. His hulking figure stood in front of me. Are you okay? He kissed my forehead. I gave a smile. Yes, just overthinking as usual. Come on. He moved us into the bed, snuggling together, enjoying the silence. Soon, there would be no silence, only chaos. We needed to savor the silence before it was gone. Our fingers intertwined as I lay my head on his chest, listening to his beating heart. My eyes began to close as his heart lulled me to sleep. Fire. My body felt as if it was engulfed in flames, as if my brain was being melted. My scream echoed through the room, followed by my body thrashing about. I fought to pry my eyes open, only to find Rush carrying me out of bed. The blazing red flames engulfed our room, dancing dangerously. My eyes quickly scanned over Rush, finding no burns on him. I let a sigh of relief out as he carried me to the balcony. My eyes began to wander over my arms, finding a few burns. Soon, my body was weightless. With a thud, we reached the ground. I silently applauded Rush for his heroism. He gently placed me on the ground. I need to get the rest out. Stay here, he commanded. Usually, I would argue and run into the fire to help, but my body went weak, my mind grew hazy, and my vision blurred. I felt useless as my eyes began to close on the fiery scene in front of me. Alexandra, the white-haired woman screamed. She chased the small white-haired girl with pigtails, with a wooden stick in one hand and a look of cruelty on her face. The little girl tried to push her feet to run faster, as the small boy witnessed from a distance. He silently pleaded that the white-haired woman would trip so the little girl could have a higher chance of getting away, but as usual, things did not go the way he wished. After the white-haired woman caught the little girl and gave her a few strikes with the wooden stick, it was time for dinner. The little girl ate her small, stale piece of bread on the floor as her brother and mother ate spaghetti like civilized people. Once dinner was over, the white-haired woman had a new activity for the little girl. Alexandra, come here, she called. The little girl came into the small living room and stood in front of her mother, waiting for whatever game she had come up with. Let's play firefighter. The woman explained the rules, and soon the little girl complied. Her little hands shook as tears crept out while she turned all of the stove burners on. She took a rod, pushing it into the fire, standing there for what seemed like an hour, letting the rod get hot. She handed the rod to the white-haired woman, and the game began. I'll give you a 5-second head start. Run. For weeks after, this was the new activity they played. It was also when the little girl realized that fire was dangerous. It could keep you warm and heat your food, but in the wrong hands, it could cause harm and destruction. Chapter 27. Last night was unexpected and disastrous. I had woken up in the pack hospital a couple of hours ago, with Rush telling me our pack had been attacked. I wondered why I felt so weak, only to find that the device planted in the house contained silver. How they turned silver into an explosive reminded me of the one I had made years ago. With the smoke and silver inhalation, it made sense why I felt so weak. Rush had left our room before the device exploded. Stephen called him because a group of rogues was at the border. The slight distraction was all they needed to attack. I did wonder how they planted the explosive without me hearing it, but I knew the answer. I am getting too comfortable here. Luckily, many pack members didn't get hurt, since the attack happened on the Alpha's floor. Their main goal was to eliminate me, and they failed. To say I was angry was an understatement. The nurse had to calm me because I was practically trying to damage the walls of my hospital room. Samuel knew better than to tell me that everything was fine, like the other wolves had tried. He knew it was not okay that I had let myself get too comfortable and leave myself vulnerable to an attack. All this week, I had been rigorously questioning the wolves about the oncoming battle when I had been the one who wasn't prepared or focused. Perhaps this is my answer. Maybe I am not meant to think with my heart, since it only leads me to disaster. I was finally allowed to leave 30 minutes ago. Currently, I am pacing around Rush's office, trying to think of anything. Alex. I turned to look at Rush. No, I replied, already knowing what he was going to say. He let out a tired sigh. You need to rest. He was right, but I couldn't rest. Not after we were just attacked. Not when I could have protected my pack from this. I shook my head no and continued to pace around the office. I was trying to solve a puzzle, my mother's puzzle. I was trying to find the missing pieces to see her plan, but I can't seem to fill in the gaps. And that's when it hit me. This isn't a puzzle. My mother is an intelligent woman. She wouldn't be making a puzzle. She would be playing chess, calculating her next 5 moves and predicting my next one. I have been losing this game because I assumed it was about finding the missing clues and gathering information. Instead, I should be getting into her head. Why would she send a rogue to plant a device? She would want to defeat me herself, with her own hands. She knew the explosion wouldn't end my life, so why? Was this the first attack before the war? Was this a warning? Or was this a distraction? I stopped in place. Rush. He turned to look at me. What? What if this was a distraction? She wants to be the one to defeat me, not an explosive. I spoke rapidly. So if she wants to defeat me, then why send the device? Why cause the distraction? I looked like a distressed woman, but I kept expressing my thoughts out loud. Are we missing anything? What? Rush asked, obviously baffled by my thoughts. That's why I would distract someone if I needed to take something. Maybe raid a room or take something of importance, I concluded. Josh, Henry, and Ryan sweep the Alpha floor for anything missing. Do the same to the other rooms below, Rush mind-linked. We'll know soon. I let out a breath, content that maybe we were on the right track. My feet continued to pace around the room as the wolves searched. Once the houses were searched, Josh came to inform us that nothing was missing. Great. Back to square one. I was so sure that she would use the device for a distraction. I went to sit on Rush's lap, needing his touch to comfort me as my thoughts began to overwhelm me. I snuggled into his chest while he played with my hair, allowing his heartbeat to lull me to sleep. The white-haired little girl with pigtails ran around the tree, giggling with glee as the white-haired boy chased her. They were playing tag. The game wouldn't last long. The white-haired woman would be back soon, and so would the unpleasantness. The little girl and boy played, laughed, and tackled each other. You can't get me, Walkie. The little girl giggled. The little boy pushed his legs even faster to catch his sister. It was almost impossible to see her. She was a fast one. He only grabbed her when she let him. The only person he knew who could catch her was their mother. The children continued to play, running through the vibrant blue flowers, with the orange leaves crunching beneath them and the red sky above. I woke with a start, startling Rush. I jumped off his lap, landing on my feet, ready to run. Alex, what's going dash? I ran out of the office and down the stairs. I pushed my feet to go faster, running down the halls quickly. I counted the doors going down the hallway, stopping at the 15th door. I waited a moment, hearing Rush's footsteps nearing. I waited for him to be by my side before pushing the door open. I grabbed onto his hand, confusion etched onto his face, but he didn't speak. I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. He wasn't here. I lifted the mattress, checked behind the shower curtain in the bathroom, but I knew I wouldn't find him. The tears came flooding down my face as my fear was becoming a reality. Rush pulled me into his arms, falling to the ground as my legs could no longer hold me up. The heaviness set into my heart, knowing I would never see him again. She took him. She took Walker. Chapter 28. I felt the string snap as an ache came over my heart. I had always heard the stories of the excruciating pain that consumes a wolf once their mate dies, but none have ever spoken about the broken heart you experience when you feel the very essence of a loved one vanish. That's what it felt like, emptiness. My brother and I had always had this strange connection. At times, I would feel what he was feeling and vice versa. I think it's why we were both so good at telling when the other was being dishonest. I felt the sharp pain in my heart as the salty river streamed from my eyes. It was a sign that he was gone. Many tried to tell me what I felt was not real or that it had no connection to him, but I knew it did. He is defeated. Our birth giver had eliminated him and would soon come to destroy me as well. I spent the last week mourning for my brother, locked up in my room. Sure, we had an imperfect relationship, but that did not mean I didn't love my brother. He was my only family. I had a small burial for him, with a few pack members who attended to see his empty casket being put into the ground. Rush tried to stop me from doing the funeral, claiming once again that the sharp pain in my heart was not a sign that he was gone. But I knew she killed him. I know her too well. I knew I couldn't let myself go down the road of despair. After I cried out all my tears and punched the walls, I put on the warrior facade. The warrior facade was something I learned at a young age. It kept me from breaking down after I saw so much death and destruction caused by my own hands. I knew I needed to take charge as the war was almost here. The warrior part of me made a point that we no longer had an advantage because my brother was now gone. It hurt me even to think that way, as my only thoughts should concern his passing and reminisce about the good times we had, not think about strategy and the war. I have been reviewing battle strategies with Rush and Samuel all day, but every plan ended the same. We would have to fight. Many of our fighters would have to perish for us to win the battle that I already knew. Our warriors knew that as soon as they joined the warrior pack. Even though they knew the possibility of defeat, I still didn't want to lose any of them. They were my family when I no longer had Walker. They taught me how to protect myself, my pack, and myself. I still remember those days when Samuel taught me how to bake. Every Sunday, we spent in the kitchen trying to make a red velvet cake successfully. I let out a small laugh as I remembered how disappointing it tasted the first time we made it. I couldn't imagine what would happen if Samuel were to fall in the war. "Come here," Rush patted on the space next to him on the bed. I followed what he said and sat next to him. He was leaning against the headboard when he pulled me into his lap. He played with my hair as he whispered endless things into my ear. He talked about everything and anything. His hands soon found their way to my shoulders and began to massage them. "You're very tense." He continued to massage my shoulders, then moved to my back. Content size flew out of my mouth as he got rid of the tension in my back and shoulders. After the massage, he pulled me back into his lap. "I was 17 when I became alpha," he started. "My father wasn't fit to be alpha anymore. He and my mother were going through a rough patch, and he began to take his anger out on the pack members. It was also the first time I'd been struck by him." My eyes grew wide as he revealed that his father had hit him. I wanted to turn around and face him, but he kept me on his lap, unable to move. After he struck me, my mother was furious. She threatened to reject my father if he ever did that again. He never struck me again, but one day, he ended up killing a pack member. He said that the pack member, Eva, kept bothering him, and in a moment of poor judgment, he ended her life. I challenged him for the alpha position the next day. Turns out, the stress of being alpha was what got to him. Now he's happy and content at my mother's side, with no responsibility. "Why did you tell me this story?" I asked. He turned me so I was straddling him. "I know so much about you, but you know nothing about me. It's only fair you know one of my secrets, since yours seem to be surfacing everywhere." I let out a chuckle. It was true. So much of my past has been revealed without me wanting it to. He moved a piece of my hair from my face. "You're so beautiful. I don't know what I did to deserve you." He gave me a brief kiss that soon turned into a passionate kiss. Goddess, I don't think I'll ever get tired of feeling his soft lips on mine. The kiss turned more needy, and suddenly our clothes were gone. I knew what was coming, and I accepted it. It was like a movie. The way I was placed onto the couch, my body shivering with excitement as Rush crawled over me. His dark eyes pierced mine as his hand gently began to discard my top. It was all so fast, yet so slow. It wasn't long until my clothes were tossed on the floor, only a pair of white undergarments stayed intact. His eyes roamed unreservedly as small appreciative sounds left his full lips. "Beautiful," he whispered into my neck as he looked at me. "Oh, goodness." I felt him smirk as my essence coated his face. Rush began to place kisses again, this time moving upward until he reached his destination. My body was flipped onto my stomach, then a profound sensation filled my sweet spot. Rush showed no restraint as he came into contact with me, going faster and faster as strong sounds left his mouth. I let the screams leave freely from my lips, letting Rush know how good he makes me feel. Letting him know only he can make me feel this way. After what seemed like hours of intimacy, Rush pulled me into his arms and kissed me gently goodnight. My heart responded to the notion. Never in my life had I felt more complete than I did now. But even in this content bliss, I knew it was the calm before the storm. Chapter 29. The content sigh flew from Alex's mouth as she snuggled into her mate. The pair were happy after their night of passion. Rush ran his fingers through his mate's hair as he thought of how lucky he was to have been paired with the white-haired beauty. He began to whisper intimate things into his mate's ears, causing her to giggle like a child. He then moved to the valley between her breasts, softly applying pressure as his mate shivered in anticipation. The morning was spent recreating what had happened last night, but in the shower. Alex has never been so happy in her life. The pair then changed and moved downstairs into the kitchen, where a group stood, staring at them warmly. The whole house heard what occurred last night between their alpha and future Luna. Many of the pack members were excited to see such a change in their usual serious alpha and future Luna. Breakfast was filled with laughter and joy, a complete turnaround from the usual tense and silent dining. In that moment, it was as if there were no worries. However, the thoughtful white-haired beauty knew it wouldn't last. She knew if she were happy, something difficult would follow. Her childhood led her to believe that her happiness would always be followed by tragedy. As she ate her pancakes and held hands with her mate, she couldn't stop the negative thoughts from attacking her mind. Alpha Rush was content having his mate by his side. He enjoyed seeing her laugh and smile, for it was a rare sight and a beautiful one. His mind replayed the intimate moments they shared last night, and his inner wolf was excited about their mating. He had longed for a mate since childhood, but at 15 he fell in love with a young girl who was not his mate. Knowing he would have a mate didn't change the fact that he fell completely for the female wolf. At the age of 17, the girl broke his heart. She never loved him, only wanted to make him fall for her, for his soon-to-be title. He was angry at himself for letting another girl touch him who wasn't his mate, but he was young and reckless. Alpha Rush felt concerned for trying to keep his mate at an arm's length in the beginning. It wasn't her fault he was scared to love again. She was his mate. She would never hurt him. The clanging of forks and spoons on plates was interrupted by a howl of a battle cry. The table soon reverted to the usual tense environment. The wolves jumped from their chairs and ran towards the field. Rogues stood at the border, baring their unsettling teeth. Front and center of the pack of rogues stood the white-haired woman that plagued the dreams of Alexandra. Warriors and fighters soon stood behind their alphas and future Luna. The stench of a deceased person wafted through the thick, hot air. The white-haired woman moved forward, holding something in her hand. As she got closer, the stench of death did as well. Standing a foot away from her daughter, she gave a mock bow and threw the pole she was holding in front of Alexandra. Alex tried to refuse her eyes from looking down, but they seemed to move on their own accord. The head of the white-haired boy was displayed on the pole. It took everything she had in her not to show how much her mother affected her. Yet, one treacherous tear slipped from her eye, causing the white-haired woman to smile. Demon child and the demon. Together again. Chapter 30. The two white-haired women stared at one another. One had a shimmer of glee, and the other was red with rage. The mother of Alexandra began to walk backwards as she spoke with a harsh tone about the white-haired boy's passing. Once the older white-haired woman was 2 feet in front of her army of rogues, the actual battle began. With a snap of her fingers, her rogues were off. The fighters and warriors shifted into wolf form as soon as the rogues ran off. The 2 alphas joined the battle, fighting the rogues as if they were nothing. The 2 white-haired women stood, frozen in place, waiting for the right moment. They knew this battle would ultimately be down to the 2 of them. Neither would want any help from another wolf. They knew they had to fight one-on-one to prove themselves. This was the Warzone way. Alex scanned the area, catching a murky brown wolf impacting one of her warriors. He was distracted by another rogue and couldn't see the murky one coming. Her eyes then moved to the west side. She found an auburn wolf that looked powerfully built. That was Butch, one of her best warriors, the one who was mated to the small, innocent girl. His hulking wolf impacted the legs of 2 rogues, causing his fur to be stained red. He then began to zigzag through the trees, his wolf taking complete control, impacting rogues fiercely and quickly. Injuries covered the ground around Alex, and yet she still had not joined in on the fight. She stood in the middle with the white-haired woman, sizing each other up. Alex never let the warriors or fighters' screams interrupt her concentration. Her job was to take on her mother, the woman who gave birth to her and almost ended her life. Alex had many emotions towards her mother, but the one that stood out was her hatred. Hate filled her entire being as the hundreds of memories passed through her mind, pictures of her dead best friend, her brother's remains, the countless days she spent with no food. Alex lifted her left foot, then her right, and then her left again. It was now or never. The white-haired woman smirked as she saw her daughter approach her. She had been waiting for this for many years. As soon as Alex stood in front of her mother, fists and kicks were thrown at each other. The 2 women were evenly matched in strength and speed, but not in skill. Alex managed to land a jab to the white-haired woman's throat, causing her to lose her breath momentarily. Alex used this as an advantage to throw a punch at her head, but the white-haired woman barely missed the punch. The 2 women continued to scratch, bite, and jab, neither making much damage. They were both trained well. It showed in how they fought so aggressively in their human forms, but were only covered in some scratches, nothing major. Alex fought with her anger, while her mother fought with a vengeful determination. No real progress was being made until her mother unsheathed a dagger in her left hand. Once Alex saw the silver shine in the sunlight, she too revealed a dagger. Like mother, like daughter. The commotion of cries and pleas filled the air as the 2 women slashed at each other, trying to drive the dagger into each other's hearts. Alex wanted to remove her mother's heart, to see physical proof that the cold person even had one. Her mother wanted her daughter's heart so it could be displayed in a glass case. Once she defeated her daughter, she would eliminate the elders and rule the wolf world. She wanted the war zones to be feared and powerful again. Alex had to be defeated for her plan to work. Dirt covered Alexandra's face, her body covered in sweat. She landed a kick to her mother's gut, causing her to stumble back. Her mother retaliated with a slash to her cheek. Suddenly, the sound of Rush's cry rang. Alex was able to keep the cries of others at bay, but not her mate's. She turned her head slightly, only to find her mate with 3 claw marks on his side. He was on the floor as a rogue approached him. Alex watched the scene unfold before her. Her wolf cried to go and help her mate, but her mind told her defeating Jane, her mother, was more critical. Jane's defeat would not only save Alex and her pack, but it would save all packs around the world. The Warzone pack could not exist again. Alex stayed planted in her spot, unable to look away at the upcoming event concerning her mate. The rogue leapt from its spot, aiming for Rush only to be defeated instantly. Rush acted quickly, biting the rogue's throat as it jumped into the air. A sigh of relief escaped Alex when she noticed almost all the rogues were defeated. Her gaze returned to her mother. She was seconds away from driving the dagger through her heart. Alex acted fast, raising her dagger, aiming for her mother's heart as well. The 2 white-haired women clashed. Alex watched as the thick, red blood flowed from the woman who had given birth to her. Jane began to cough rapidly, panic etched onto her face, knowing she was about to perish. Jane looked at her daughter one last time. The demon's child and the demon. Together again. Jane closed her eyes and let death take her away. Alex looked across the field towards Rush, mouthing, "I love you," then fell to her knees. The dagger was driven into the same place as her mother. However, her blood didn't flow quickly. It gently flowed down like a red river. Rush came running to his mate's side, holding her close, breathing in her sweet lavender scent. Alex had her mate's face in her hands. "You're safe," she smiled with her bloody teeth. The eye contact between the two didn't falter, not even after her heart stopped beating. The battle was won. When Alex held Rush before she passed, only one thought had come to her. A warrior chooses to be a warrior, knowing they could perish. In that moment, Alex remembered that she, too, was a warrior. Epilogue. Alpha Rush buried his mate 5 years ago. If not for Alpha Samuel, he would have gone insane. After the death of his mate, Alpha Rush returned to his cold demeanor and went on a rogue rampage. Hundreds of rogue bodies were scattered in the woods. Lone wolves often found the remains of other lone wolves. Alpha Rush soon became a myth in the werewolf world. He was the monster of the woods. Alpha Rush is in a meeting with Alpha Samuel about the rogues. The argument is slowly turning heated, as Samuel argues that Rush needs to stop causing harm. He pleads that Alex wouldn't have wanted that. The next second, Alpha Rush has Samuel's spine in his hands. I catch my breath. My heart is beating rapidly. My head is covered in sweat. The last 5 years, I have had visions of Alpha Rush, the monster who haunts my dreams. My Alpha says it's a great honor to have a seer in his pack, but it seems more like a curse to me. At a young age, I had visions of other packs and at times of rogues. The visions were always somehow connected to my life, but how did Alpha Rush connect to me?
Please subscribe, hit the notification button for more audiobooks, and comment on what you think of the video.